All right, you guys, we'll go ahead and get started. They want us to sort of use this microphone. Evidently something somewhere is being recorded, so I apologize for being a little bit stuck behind the podium. But I just wanted to welcome you. My name is Sara Krzyzaniak. We'll do some introductions of the whole team here. Come on in, you guys. Are you looking for the networking session? Yeah. You can come on in. Come on. Whether you've registered, just open door, grab a seat at a table.
Wait, there's like a brown bag.
Yeah, and a brown bag and a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
So I'm Sara Krzyzaniak. I am the program director and associate vice chair at Stanford. We'll go through the rest of our introductions for our team here in just a couple slides, but just really wanted to welcome all of you. We have a really nice, small, intimate group, which is going to be fantastic, I think, for this workshop to really help us, talk about strategies that have been helpful for all of us and learn from each other as part of this as well. And hopefully just have a really productive discussion. Just at any point, if anybody needs to run to the bathroom, get water, get snacks, please do. Again, we're a small group, small room. Nobody should feel like they're stuck in their chairs for the next 4 hours. As all of you know, academia is very lucrative. In this case, we don't have any disclosures to make to any of you. So again, I'm Sara Krzyzaniak, and I will pass it on to the rest of my team.
Sure. I'm Melissa Parsons. I'm the program director at the University of Florida in Jacksonville, and I'm an associate professor. I forgot momentarily, but I think that's true.
I'm Cassandra Bradby. I'm the residency program director at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina, the one that's close to the water, not the one that's close to Charlotte. I understand there's 2 Greenvilles. You want the one in North Carolina, okay? I am also the president of ADIM, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you guys today to talk about networking.
And I'm Ynhi Thomas. I'm assistant medical director at Baylor, and I'm also vice president of corporate development for URiM.
Great. I would just want to do a special thank you to URiM and ADIM. Both helped to co-sponsor this. Special thanks to URiM for the snacks and just really for the support in helping to build out this workshop. Okay, so we have 4 objectives for today, and we really want to make this personal so that when you leave here today, you don't just leave with some general principles, but that there's something as well that you can take away for your own personal growth, your own personal networking that you can implement right away. So the first is just understanding, why are we even having this discussion? What is the impact of gender on academic advancement in EM? We want to talk about the strategies to building this professional network that's large and diverse. Talk about what are the best practices in maintaining these relationships, because like every relationship, they take a little bit of work. And then also talk about some strategies to improve your efficiency, because as we sort of dug into the literature, really that was a big piece of understanding sort of how we are successful in academia. We have all women here today, but so sort of how we can be successful. And then when we initially conceptualized this workshop, we also had a focus on the underrepresented, but really what we found as we went through this is that there's a lot of intersectionality between gender, race, and ethnicity, and the strategies that we found were really sort of coming and I think applicable to everybody who's looking to support their current career or promote their academic career. So we're really going to focus on what those strategies are, regardless of sort of how you identify or who you are. Okay, so the first thing we'd like you to do, we just want to know, really, is our workshop working? Is it getting what we are hoping to have it get done? So this is a QR code. It'll take you to a brief pre-survey. If you wouldn't mind, please, completing just the few short questions. Let us know sort of where you're at, what your understanding is, and then we'll resume. And when you're done, if you just want to make weird eye contact towards the front of the room so we know you're done, you can keep doing emails or Slacks or whatever else you're doing. But I also want to make sure. Hello, come on in. Grab a seat. If you want to just really quickly take this, is going to be a pre-survey of where you're at. And then what I'd like to do is, again, because we have a small group, I would just love to hear who all of you are, where you're at, and maybe one thing that you're hoping to get out of this. What brought you into this room on a Monday or Tuesday afternoon for several hours, other than sort of avoiding the Phoenix heat. So why don't we start here at this table? Megan, will you kick us off? Who you are, and hello, welcome, hi.
Oh man, I just came to steal some of your favorite hats, but
Oh, no, you can,
The floor room in the back, I just stole some from there, Nicole. You're welcome.
and if you get stuck, we can donate to the cause. Megan, kick us off.
So I'm Megan Reynolds. Nice to meet everyone. I went to residency with Sarah many years ago. Not that I should date us, but
Just yesterday.
So I am at the Ohio State University and Nationwide Children's Hospital. I did a PEDS fellowship, and my focus is in quality improvement, schools education, and then admin stuff.
Wonderful.
But
Yeah,
one
anything
second.
particular you're hoping to get out of the session?
I'm an open sponge.
Perfect, love that, love it.
That was a great answer.
Next, yeah.
Hi, I'm Rose Gonsalves. I went to Drexel Med, I was in the military, and then I did my residency at York. So I'm currently in Florida at Sarasota with an FSU program. So it's hard right now in Florida to even talk about DEI. So I'm hoping to really get out of this book how we can strategically talk about it without being like, why are you talking about it's illegal and so forth. So
Yeah.
it's a very hostile environment in Florida right now. So
Yeah, for sure.
any type of DEI efforts, and we know it's needed in medicine.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Aliza. I'm from Pakistan. I'm basically here for my presentation that's
Oh.
due day after tomorrow. So by going for through the workshops, I found this really interesting because in Pakistan there are no in academic emergency medicine there's no such thing as opportunities for women. And I'm also doing research that's looking at the disparities in these socio-economic factors that hinder women's growth in career progression. So I felt like I could connect with this topic more and maybe explore how in this world that is different for women than my world.
Very cool, and hopefully we'll get you some good networking groups and people that you can stay in contact with to make sure you have that support.
Looking forward to that.
Good.
I'm Hadley. Nice to meet everyone. I am a PGY2 out of the Memorial System in Hollywood, Florida. So I totally understand where you're coming from with the hostility. Also presenting, but saw this and kind of it sparked my interest because I usually call jokingly my program the Jewish Boys Club. And it was just kind of like, okay, I really needed other women to kind of connect with and network going forward. So
Amazing. Great. Thank you.
I'm Wendy Chang. I'm at University of Maryland. I consider myself kind of in the mid-career stage now, and so I think looking for other sort of ideas, especially as I take on the admin operations roles on different ways that.
Yeah, that mid-career spot is pivotal and strange, yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Vicki. I'm coming from the University of Vermont. I'm at my early career stage. I finished residency at Penn last spring. So this is my first academic big girl job. And I was very involved with Penn's work specifically for women in emergency medicine. I've sort of been trying to develop that group at my new job. And being a new person from far away who didn't know anybody, it was hard, and it has been hard to get that group started up. So I was looking for strategies here to sort of see how to expand my network and what I can do that.
Wonderful. All right, let's move back table. You want to start?
I'm Valerie. I went to Washington for residency and fellowship, and then now back to California at Kaiser as a college residency. This is honestly my first exposure to women in medicine, as an organization, and I'm hoping to help them with them in EM at our program, but I really just have zero knowledge. I just kind of experienced on a daily basis like all of us, so I'm hoping to learn a lot today.
Yeah, I think, we all like piece it together, right? We just sort of like ad hoc it, and this will hopefully provide some structure so that you're not just like winging it as you go.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I'm BUM1 in Dallas. We actually went together and we just saw this on the list, so we thought, why not? Sounds
Yeah.
interesting. Our program has a lot of male residents, so I think it's interesting for us to kind of like, as we keep going our residency career, kind of guide the number of girls coming in too. Because it's kind of hard. A lot of the times, male colleagues can't relate. I'm pregnant, so it's kind of hard. Also, I guess talking about where we can find places to breastfeed, because it's things, topics that they have about before. So I want to be able to empower everyone as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm Charlie Meadows, BGY Mama Nicole from Dallas. Yeah, I don't know, from this, I think it's cool that y'all are hosting this because I've never experienced this. One of the questions on the survey we just took, like, what barriers have you faced? And like, I always talk about how before I even came to med school, like, I didn't really see women in emergency, and I certainly didn't see Black women in emergency. And so I think it's really cool that y'all are hosting this and giving us an avenue to actually meet these women, and I'm hoping that I can take that back to my program. We have a pretty good, solid, like faculty as far as like women faculty. One is with us here today, and I wish she was in here. She's actually from Pakistan, so I wish she was in here specifically to meet you because she empowers us like all the time. So hopefully if I see you again, and I'm with her, all of she's so
These network maps are really
I
happening.
know connection for you to make. But anyway.
Look at this networking that's already happening. You can check the box. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm Krzyzaniak. Nice to meet you all. I'm currently an assistant professor at Emory. I am kind of in this transitional period where I am about to move back home and kind of work with the same group that I was in medical school with, training with. I have learned a lot. They've done a lot of work at Emory, like building up DEI and women in medicine, and they have a really robust amount of women in their program. And I'm kind of going back to the old boys club and would love to learn some tips on how to take what I've learned and integrate it in a way that also like comes from a place of being accepted into this new group as a colleague. So,
Yeah.
I'm Linda McKinley. I'm in my pre-tending phase of my career, I like to call it. So I just finished residency, 2 years Ultrasound fellowship, and my first attending kind of gig, but it feels still a little bit new and interesting. With the ultrasound training, hoping to move into a little bit of admin, and especially with a lot of the more established chairs and deans are still that for the boys club. In addition to community medicine job that I have, it's adjacent to the academic Wright State University, and they have an Air Force military split there, so that is heavily male-dominated as well. So I'm really needing to learn a lot about the language, just putting labels and vocabulary to what I feel like probably happens, but I can't quite put my finger on exactly. There is a feminine M in EM group that exists already for our military faculty, so she does a great job with that. But because the women are just a smaller group, it feels hard to expand it out to everybody. I think the males realize that this exists and it does happen, but not everyone realizes it.
Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Mariam Kia. I'm an international medical graduate applying to EM residency this year. And I was in Canada with neuroscience and was exposed enough to feel the need for this training.
Yeah. Wonderful. Great. All right.
Hi, I'm Sean Rabelais. I am almost not a resident anymore. I am at UF Jax with Dr. Parsons. As I kind of move into my fellowship role and attending hood, really just looking on ways to expand my network. I'm really lucky to have strong female leadership at our program. But as you know, in an academic system, getting your promotion packet, all of that, really expanding the network to kind of get that going as an early career.
Yeah.
I'm Hannah Colette. I am also with John and Dr. Parsons at UF Jax. I have
I'm a second year, and I'll be a chief next year, so I think for me, it's kind of twofold of how do I get the residents involved and kind of finding those needs that we have as women and how to navigate those relationships, and then also going forward on a job hunt and what's next and how to navigate that.
Hi, I'm Lauren Nedrick. I feel really old. I'm a ED physician at Mass General and vice chair for clinical affairs there, and I've been an ED physician now for 16 years, and I just thought this would be interesting to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
You can,
Yeah,
Morgan.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm a medical student ambassador for the conference, and I'm an MS3 at Texas A&M University. So I was actually requested to be assigned to this one because I just thought it would be really interesting, and I've had some personal difficulties getting some mentorship, specifically women, so I thought that would be
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys very much. I mean, it's great to see the spectrum of what we have in the room here today, and I really firmly believe that I think there's something for everybody to take away from this workshop, no matter what stage you're in. And let me just actually go ahead and give you a little bit of a ground map of what this day will look like. You know, the first is that we want this to be a safe space. I think, again, hopefully hearing where everybody else is coming from, where everybody else is at in their lives and their careers, this is an opportunity for all of us to grow together and share together. And just like every other safe space, right? Like this is, there's no judgment, there's no, there's no sort of designation about like who's giving advice to whom. It's really just all of us collectively sharing with each other. We know that 4 hours is a long time, so we've broken this up. We're going to start with talking about building your diverse network and what that looks like. We'll take a break after that portion, get up, bio break, check your emails, make sure if you have children, they're alive with whoever's watching them, grab a snack. We'll come back and talk about sort of what your building blocks are in your network and then how to establish and maintain that relationship. Take another break, and then we'll come back and talk about efficiency and time management and some strategies that you can all really use. In the midst of all of this, we're going to have a couple of other pieces. So one will be some individual reflection, and that's where we really want you to reflect on like who is in your network and maybe where the holes are, where are the gaps, and then working through as we go through the workshop, how do you fill those gaps and how do you find those people to be part of your network? As Melissa will talk about, it's not just about having this one mentor, but it's really about having all of these people in your life and in your professional space and how they all work together to provide things to you in a different way. And then we'll finally also, along with individual reflections, just have some group share at your tables because, again, I think there's a lot to learn from what's worked and maybe what's not worked and the things that you have all experienced as you've sort of progressed through your training. Whether you're a first-year resident, whether you're a med student, right? Like you've done something to get to the point that you're at right now. And whether you recognize it or not, I think you're all doing really amazing things that we can all learn from. So I just want to quickly set the stage, because I do think that this requires us to be deliberate because we know that women are underrepresented in academic emergency medicine and emergency medicine in general. So of sort of full-time faculty at US medical students or medical schools, so this would be like academic faculty, 39% are women. And you can see here that the majority of them are sort of clustered in that assistant professor role. And what we really want to work on today is talk about how do you move up? How do you have a sustainable relation or a sustainable career in academic emergency medicine? How do you move up that academic ladder? We could debate sort of the utility of like moving up a ladder, but I do think, right, like that's the currency in academic emergency medicine and academic medicine. Even if you just look at men and women in this group, women, 22% of them fall into the associate and professor category. 33% of men are in that associate and professor category. So again, there's this differential between women at these lower ranks of academia, that far 6% is the instructor level. So again, there is this gap between where women and men fall in academic emergency medicine. And there's also not just the fact that we have this gap, but that women are actually more likely to leave academia. So this study quoted here was actually of all academic physicians, not just in emergency medicine. And they actually found that women were more likely to leave than their males at any level after their training, whether it was 5 years out. So they found that at 5 years, the rate of attrition for female was 38.3, and it was 32 for males. But that trend of women leaving academic medicine persisted across sort of all levels after training. There have been some great studies as well by Cameron Gettle looking at just attrition, not just from academic medicine, but from just emergency medicine in general using Medicare data. And again, that difference in women leaving the workforce is 12%. So there's a lot of parts to that. There's a lot of reasons for that. We can't, this isn't the space to unpack all of that, but I do think a big piece of that is, what is your mentorship? How are you growing? What is the support that you have? And really trying to, beat the statistics and be able to progress through academia. All right, so with that, I will turn it over to Melissa Parsons.
All right, so we are going to start by talking about a little bit of literature out of the business sector. So this study, and you can QR code it, How Successful Women Manage Their Network, is actually a study that we used, and AWEM sponsored us. Honestly, I think it's in 2020 I received my grant for this. The thing I didn't say about myself is somehow I became a gender researcher in my career. I don't really know how. It was just something that interested me, and now that's pretty much where I do my research, and Florida hasn't fired me yet, so I'm banking that continues. But we looked at this study from the business sector, right? And it found that there are 4 practices that women that were very high achieving in the business world had in their networking strategies that basically boosted them into a much more high achieving than kind of other women that they studied. Boundary spanning, efficiency, stickiness, and trust and energy building. And then what we did, there's a group of us, and our paper hopefully will be published sometime soon. But what we did was we kind of created this study in emergency medicine, specifically looking at high achieving or very successful women in emergency medicine. Yes?
Is there a different way we can access this? It's not coming up
Is it-
in the QR code.
Search. What does that look like? Let me see. Carboni, Carboni et al. And then this title should pull it up. Sorry, that's going to be a problem if none of my QR codes work for y'all, but I can get them out to everybody after the fact. Okay, so we used this study. We built our own study looking at women in emergency medicine specifically that had achieved prominence in emergency medicine, right? So think about chairs, female chairs in emergency medicine, females that had been the president of SAEM or I was going to say ABEM, but that's not. AAEM or any of our big national organizations. And we begged these women basically for an hour of their time, which is a lot. To give anybody an hour of your time in this day is a lot. I mean, we kind of went through and asked them about their networking strategies and how these things apply to them, right? And so a lot of the data and a lot of the discussion we're going to be presenting you today is coming from that data that we have. And hopefully in the upcoming year, you'll be able to actually read the study, but you're going to hear a little bit about it in advance today. So boundary spanning, what do I mean by this, right? And boundary spanning, I want you to think of as planting seeds. This is, my residents who are here know that I have a lot of plants and a little bit of a gardening problem. So everything in this is going to be a plant analogy, so apologize. So boundary spanning is the seeds that you're planting, right? And I want you to plant a lot of seeds. I want you to plant diverse seeds, and I want you planting them in different soils, right? So you don't just want everybody around you to be a gender researcher because that's what you're interested in, right? We need all different groups of people. We need people that think like us, people that think differently from us. We need people in our region, people at our institution, people outside of those networks, right? We need to think horizontally and vertically, right? So we need people that are above us and can help us to progress. But actually, one of the cool things to hear from our research was a lot of these women talked about the need for peer mentors, right? I don't think I could get through my day-to-day job without having my peers that are also in my day-to-day job to be able to have those conversations of, this isn't great right now, or this is really great, or what should I do about this, right? So think horizontal, think vertical. Efficiency, and this is where kind of our last session really comes in, is we have to maximize our personal efficiency in order to best collaborate with one another, and you have to avoid collaborative overload to avoid burnout. We all know burnout is huge in emergency medicine and in academics especially. And so, right, what are the things that are really frustrating when you're trying to collaborate with somebody on a paper or a project or something that you're working on maybe for AWEM across different institutions, right? It's how do I collaborate effectively with other people to make sure that we're maximizing our outcome? And so I think of efficiency as pruning, right? You're pruning your yeses, your nos, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it to make me the best functional, get me the best functional outcomes. Stickiness is going to be how do we nurture those relationships, right? You have to water the seeds, you have to tend to those, right? So you've started that relationship, you have this building block out here. How do we manage that over time, right? How do we keep checking in with these people? How do we keep growing that relationship and building it so that we can develop trust, so that we can develop energy, things like that. And then the stickiness is actually where, when you look at gender studies, that's where women really are phenomenal, right? Like, this is something we do every day in our regular life. This is where we strive. However, when you look at the things that matter the most, number 4 is the most important, and number 1 is second most important, okay? So let's talk about 4. Trust and energy building is our fertilizer, right? This is really what catapults our career growth. And there's 2 different types of trust that really matter here. So there's competence-based trust, which means you can trust me to do the thing I say I'm going to do, right? So if I'm going to write a paper with Sarah, she has to be able to trust me that I'm going to get my part of the paper done and do all of those things, right? And then there's also benevolence-based trust, meaning for us to collaborate well, she has to trust that I have her best interest in mind and I'm not just kind of using her to get my, whatever I want out of this deal, right? And so we need to prove both of those to people, and sometimes as women, it may be more challenging to prove our competence than it is for men because they walk in the room and it's assumed. So once we are able to, now I'm moving my slides all over the place. Go back. Once we are able to build that trust, then we can really build energy and kind of grow as a group working on something. So you're going to hear us talk, we're going to talk a lot about boundary spanning, we're going to talk about efficiency, and we're going to talk a lot about trust and energy building today too. So when I talk about building a diverse network, right, how do we plant those seeds, different soil, that sort of thing, right? And so this is we're going to talk a lot about network maps today, and this is going to be the first version I'm going to show you. Eventually, I'm going to make you build one. So start thinking through what pieces go into yours, right? But what people outside your institution are part of your network? What people in other specialties within your own institution can you just reach out to and say, hey, I need help with something? What people in your niche at other places do you have? What collaborators do you have from national organizations? Are you involved with CORD? Are you involved with AWEM, SAEM? I know that we're all here and attending national meetings is important, but how do we connect with people from those things? And then involvement in affinity groups. So I heard a lot of people in this room talk about women organizations, right? I heard FemIM, I heard Women in Emergency Medicine. These are really important, and these are some of our first ways of kind of connecting, and I think it is a safe place for all of us to kind of go and join and meet people and start those networking. And then we do also need to move out of that or keep growing from that. So why does this matter? Why do I need that diverse network? Why can't I just know the people in my group that I work with every day? And I think one of the important things to remember is it's not really about who you know or what you know, but it's about who knows you, and they can speak to, oh, Melissa, so one of the other things I'm interested in is infertility and emergency medicine, right? So that other people can say, hey, Melissa talks about her infertility journey and you should tag her to give this talk, right? It's other people knowing you that helps you. So what does it do for us? It provides us opportunities. It allows us to negotiate. When we know, I have 2 other PDs sitting up here, when I know what these 2 other PDs are getting offered to go to conferences by their chair, right? Then I can come in and negotiate and say, well, I know that they get to go to every conference and it's paid for and I want that too, right? And we're able to use those negotiation tools to help us because we have other people from outside places that we can get information from. Can help us with career advancement. I'm going to talk a little bit about this more. Problem solving, innovation, right? We can create groups to help us to work towards a solution. I think one of the most important things from our study was that the women in our study use their network to pivot in their careers, right? To climb the ladder of emergency medicine, to find other jobs, to go other places, and continue advancing along that ladder, right? They were able to use that network for that. And then the highest frequency code in our data that I will tell you involved attending national meetings and being involved with national organizations, right? So you guys are already, like, check done, you've already done that, you're at a national meeting, but getting involved in these spaces where you can meet other people and network from there is actually one of the most important things that literally almost every woman that we interviewed spoke of. So I said I would come back to why it's so important for us to build that network for career advancement. This study, which hopefully my link works, but if it doesn't, here's the title, and I am one of the authors on this. This was a study that we did for AWEM a number of years ago, but from here to chair, gender differences in the path to leadership. And the important thing from this study that I'm bringing it up for is when you looked at males and females, there was a trend. It wasn't statistically significant, but I do think it matters, that males are more likely to stay at the place they trained at and become chair. And women aren't. We have to move, right? To get that chair position, they were much more likely to have to move jobs, go someplace else. And this is why, as you keep progressing up the ladder may end at your institution and you may need to go other places. And that's why our network really matters. Ooh. So, I told you I was going to talk about the plants. We can't go through a networking talk without talking a little bit about mentorship and sponsorship, because I think that's kind of the thing that most of us bring to mind when we talk through this. And so I still have questions. I have always had the question of what is the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? And if you ask me who my mentors and who my sponsors were, I'm not sure I can delineate them for you. So I used AI because I think everything at this conference, like Cord, will probably be about AI. And I asked ChatGPT what the differences were. So I'm going to read you from ChatGPT. Mentors and sponsors play distinct roles in career development. Mentors, typically older and more experienced, provide guidance, share knowledge, and offer support, often leading to lasting friendships. In contrast, sponsors, who are usually in positions of authority, actively advocate for their protégés, opening doors and creating opportunities for them. While mentors can sometimes become sponsors, not all mentors fulfill this role. So then I looked at actual data. And so this study is one that I've been referencing for a number of years. Are the rest of the QR codes working? No, none of them.
I wonder if they timed out just because we just submit our slides so early.
Maybe, because we submitted our slides like 2 months ago at this point. But, so will you be my mentor? We're going to talk through the study, so you really don't have to look at it. But there's basically 4 different archetypes of people that we want to consider having in our career, okay? So we have a mentor, a sponsor, a coach, and a connector. So mentors, right? Yes, they can be. The traditional mentor is somebody who's older and wiser than you, right? But basically it's a formal, dynamic, and reciprocal relationship. And I think the reciprocal part is really important because a lot of times we get like assigned mentors, and the most fun part of this research study was listening to everybody talk about how assigning mentors doesn't work, right? Because this is supposed to be reciprocal. Like, I'm going to help you do something that benefits you in your career, and you're going to help me as well. And so assigning people just doesn't really work. But it is important to know, as many of us are more junior in the room, like, we may have to prove ourselves, right? We may have to prove our worth to work with that mentor and to get their mentorship by showing, hey, I'm here to do the work. I'm willing to put in the extra effort. I'm willing to help you in order to gain that mentorship. We always joke, so in my gender interest, I run a website that I make no money off of, so it's not a financial disclosure, called SHEMD. But if you're ever looking for places to go for data and stuff to present at your women's groups, that's a good one. And we present this at med schools across the country. And so I always describe the mentor as like they're your professional parent. They're who you go to for advice, right? And then there's the sponsor. And sponsors are going to use their influence. Sponsors really should be above you and use their influence to make you more visible, to give you opportunities, right? They say, oh, you should consider reaching out to so-and-so because they could give a great talk on this at our next national meeting. They risk their reputation, in suggesting and putting your name out there. And sometimes we don't even know that somebody's sponsoring us and doing that behind the scenes. Somebody just reaches out and says, oh, somebody told me to contact you, right? So sponsors are really about opening doors and creating opportunities. Okay, and then coach. A coach is, and I think now we all, the idea of having a professional coach is very common right now and very trendy, but a coach doesn't necessarily have to be like the person that you go to that you pay extra to have as a professional coach, but you also can have coaches for specific skills, right? Like as a resident, you may say, I really want to work on my airway skills, and you may have a coach that's going to coach you through how to improve airway skills. So you have to think through, you're working with a coach for a specific skill that you want to develop and improve upon. And then the connector. And connectors are going to help you to meet other people that are doing work that you're interested in, that have opportunities that fit with what you're trying to do in life. They're basically like a multiplier of they know you and they know you, and they're going to connect you together so that you can work on something and make something great. So going back to mentorship and sponsorship, because I think those are the two big ones that we think of a lot. There was a 2008 study done by Catalyst that looked at the leaky pipeline of women in the business sector, but surprise, we also have it in medicine and in emergency medicine. And they found that women were equally likely as men to have a mentor, okay? But men were more likely to benefit from that mentor. Why? Because typically their mentors were higher up, they had more clout, they functioned more as a sponsor. And so this is still one of my favorite HBR articles of all time, but women are over-mentored and under-sponsored relative to their male peers. And so, right, we don't actually need more and more mentors. What we need is more sponsors that can help us to promote. So one of the problems with that is if I go to somebody much higher up, right, and I say, I want you to sponsor me, that's not really going to work. And there are studies in the business sector that show that face time for us with people that may sponsor us doesn't necessarily help us because of the kind of gender dynamics that often hinder us. And so one of the things that they found that is helpful is using the power of a shared connection, right? So if somebody can act as basically the middleman between us and a sponsor and promote us to that sponsor, they're more likely to sponsor us than if we are trying to get that for ourselves. Does that make sense? And what they found is that if the middleman is a man, it's more helpful to women, because if it's a woman, they assume that the woman is supporting us because we're a woman and not necessarily because we have the competence and because we deserve it. So you really want a middleman, is the teaching point from this. Okay, so why did I go through all of that? Because the most important thing is that we build a board of directors. So there's an HBR article, you can Google it, on board of directors. It's excellent. I love HBR. I read a lot of their stuff. But you really want to create you don't want one mentor, you don't want one sponsor. One person can't tell you how to live your life, right? You want a group of people that you can consult for different things, that you can go to get feedback and sometimes to get different viewpoints, because sometimes that's actually more helpful than just having one person say, this is what I would do. So you may want, like, thinking through some of the facets of your life, right? Like, I like to have some other moms in medicine that I can say, hey, how did you do this? How did you survive? When all of a sudden, like, work and childhood is a challenge. You may want people in education because you're a program director and you just stepped into a program director role and you're like, hey, my other program directors, help me with this. You may have just finished an ultrasound fellowship and you have a bunch of ultrasound people that are, what do I do next? Where do I go with this? Those sorts of things. So, to reiterate the importance of this is a direct quote from one of our study participants. I have a lot of mentors and sponsors depending on what it is that I need some suggestion or advice or even coaching, right? So that's what I want you guys to be thinking about. How do you build your personal board of directors? And I think the first step is you have to figure out what are your goals, right? And I know goal setting can be challenging at times and a little bit daunting to think about, but what are the goals? What are kind of the next steps in your career that you're looking for? And then we can start to piece together, who do we need to help us get there? Like, what people can we get advice from? What connections might help us? That sort of thing. Maybe your interest is becoming a K grant recipient. Don't come talk to me, I can't help you. But what are the things that you're struggling with? What are the things that you are trying to grow skills in, right? Grant writing, also don't talk to me. But these are the things that I want you guys to start thinking through, and we're gonna have you actually take a minute and set some SMART goals. I'll put this back up, but define your personal and professional goals based on your current roles that you have right now, or I know a couple of people said they're transitioning into something right now, so think forward, don't think backwards. And take a few minutes, use the paper in front of you, and start thinking through kind of what those goals will be. At some point, we are going to use the paper on the walls, but right now, use your small paper and work on that, and I will leave the SMART goals up.
We'll give you guys 5 or 6 minutes, just think about these goals, and then we'll use it later on in the workshop. Take a couple more minutes to think about some last goals, and then we're actually going to pause for our first break. So throw down 2 or 3 more goals, and then get up, walk around.
If you're having a hard time finding a goal, think of small goals. I would like to let go of this thing that I'm doing that I don't actually like doing. I would like to repurpose this task to anyone but me. And then, as a SMART goal, you can also try to identify who you can repurpose that to and how you're going to sucker them into doing it.
That can be sponsorship, if you give it to somebody junior to you.
See, just putting it out there, I have difficulty setting goals right now, so you can start small on little things that you would like to change.
Right, then once you guys are done, take 10 minutes, meet someone new, replenish your blood sugar. We'll come back at 2:10.
Are we bringing them back?
Yeah, I think so.
Okie dokie, people. We're gonna bring it back together. Hi, Dr. Kaji, welcome. If I hit the right buttons, excellent. Okay. So my part of this talk is we're going to talk some about finding your building blocks, which means that I get to talk a lot about like my own stuff and how I ended up where I am. So in terms of finding my building blocks, so this woman is Dr. Michelle Whitehurst Cook. So she is the Dean of Admissions and a family medicine physician at Virginia Commonwealth University. I put her up there because when I was 16 years old, she was assigned to me as my mentor in a summer program, like one of those governor school for medicine kind of things where you go hang out on a college campus and feel special for the summer, but you were probably actually a nuisance to whoever your mentor was, but you had no idea. I know that now, but I did not know that then. And so basically, I got to run amok in her clinic for like 8 weeks. Like I would come to clinic, I would be like a medical assistant, I would ask what was probably really dumb questions that I had no idea were dumb at the time. But they let me take vital signs, like take foreign bodies out of people's ears. I got to take Implanon out of someone's arm, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. Putting it in was not cool, FYI. It looked really painful. But these are the formative experiences I remember from being her clinic. And the reason I put her up there is because I would probably not have like pursued medicine to the degree I did had it not been for her. And so to have someone at 16 who tells you that you can be a doctor, who tells you like, look, I'm here, I came from the middle of nowhere too. And the person that I actually wrote my essay about for that program was actually her mentor. I mean, there was no way for me to know that when I wrote it. But he was a traveling physician in our county, the only physician for 2 counties in Virginia, and he did home calls, and his wife was his nurse. I actually don't think she was trained as a nurse, FYI, but she worked as his nurse, and they would go they would go to your house and take care of you because there was no actual medical clinic in the county that I grew up in. Like my county has 6 stoplights now. It had 1 when I was growing up. I remember when the other 5 were put in. Like that's the size of how I grew up. And so this woman actually helped me figure out where I was going to college. And so I was going to Duke, FYI, that was like my plan, okay? I was going to Duke, that was gonna be the whole deal. Duke at the time was like $60,000 a year, and my parents were like, I mean, you can go to Duke if you want, if you can afford it, but we can't afford it, so decide what you wanna do. FYI, I couldn't afford it, okay? I didn't have that. And so she drove me to the College of William & Mary because I wasn't gonna apply there because it was 25 minutes from home on the same street that my parents live in, was the place my first dorm was, same street. And I told her, I was like, I'm absolutely not going to school here. There's no way I want to be this close to home. My parents will be in my business, blah, blah, blah. She was like, well, let me show you around and talk to you about like what they have to offer you and how this would help you in your career in medicine. And so she actually drove me around, took me out to fancy lunch that I probably couldn't afford, like until now as an attending, because it was some fancy seafood lunch, and like talked to me, like brought me to like the admissions office. I talked to the staff there. They talked to me about what opportunities were there, particularly as someone from a minoritized background, like how I would fit in on campus, because like I'm of mixed background. So my dad is African American, my mom is Malaysian Chinese from Malaysia. She moved here when she was 18. So a lot of the applying to college thing, no clue. She had no bloody idea what I was supposed to be doing, but she would look something up in a heartbeat, y'all. Like she would definitely do the research to help. But my dad didn't go to college, so they were helpful as best they could, but they couldn't help me with a lot of the things that I needed to know. And so this woman actually did a lot of that stuff for me. And so she's the first one that I remember as formally being my mentor growing up. She still answers my emails from time to time now, but I'm pretty grown, so I don't need a whole lot these days, but it was really helpful to have her then. And so as I progressed through medicine, I kept looking for other people who could shed that same kind of light and hold my hand when I needed it and tell me not to do something or tell me I should do something. Because in my case, a lot of times I need to be told not to do things because I like a lot of stuff. I presume y'all like a lot of stuff, and that's probably how you ended up in emergency medicine, because you liked too much stuff. And so it's helpful to have that person say, hey, like perhaps that's not going to help you. Perhaps this would help you more. Perhaps that's a time suck that you're gonna get very little out of. And so I like to think about my mentors and one, how can I help them? Because it works a lot better if you can help them some, because they get something out of this game. And then how is it that they can help me? Never have a mentor that cannot help you in any way, shape, or form unless like you're trying to build them up or something like that. But for the most part, like if you can't find a purpose for them, then like you need to pivot somewhere else or have some extra, because there's actually folks out there that pretend to be your mentor and are actually like hindering you in every way possible. So that person who likes to volunteer you into doing like 6 search committees, that person is not helping you, okay? You think they are, but they are not. They are sucking up your time for funsies because they needed someone to sit on that committee and 6 other people told them no, and they know you're really agreeable. So like, make sure that you think about those things when you're choosing someone as your mentor.
I just started, I'm on a search committee. Now I feel like you're outing me, and I feel very, very seen right now. Thank you. We'll talk after this.
I too was just put on a search committee and tried to get out of it and failed. So that is exactly why that's on the forefront of my mind right now. Y'all don't realize that's like a multi-hour suck up for several months that you will get nothing out of, but it's all good. In terms of how connections are formed, so you start thinking about like what's important to you, what are your interests and passions. So one of my interests and passions is diversity and inclusion in emergency medicine. That's probably how I ended up the president of ADIM, because I had mentors that made me run for office. So I'll be honest, I kind of had an idea of what it meant to be the president, but really what happened was former presidents were in my inbox saying, hey, I really think this could be a great role for you. I'm like, I don't know, I'm pretty junior faculty. I don't know if I would be a great president. And they were like, that doesn't matter. You have a passion for the work, you network pretty well, you know a lot of people, that's really all that you need in order to be like an effective president is mostly networking and leadership. And they're like, you have that. And so I ran for office because they put me out there for it. And so think about like what it is you're interested in and who else is interested in those things. It's kind of like what Melissa was talking about. She ended up being a sex and gender researcher, even though that wasn't necessarily where she thought she was going, but she has an interest in it. And so like now her career is built around the thing that she actually is interested in, and that's what I would like for all of you. What activities are you involved in? And so some of the things, one of my pastimes is I do a lot of stuff with my sorority. I realize that I am 40 years old, and so you're like, why is she in a sorority? I am part of a lifelong sorority, so we have alumni chapters across the country, and so I do community service through them. I meet a lot of random people as a result, so I know the recruiter for the hospital super well because we're sisters. I am very good friends with the head of social work for Pitt County because she is also one of the founding members of the chapter of my sorority, which is actually very helpful to me because now I understand how social work works in the county, and I can use that to help my patients that really need help with some of the less medicine related things, right? Like I can't find you housing as the doctor, but my sorority sister Disha can. And so I can make that phone call and hook them up with the resources that they need and know that I was heard, like that I'm not gonna be another number on the long list of people who have called them that day. Think about like organizations and meetings like this one, right? So you get to meet a lot of people at this meeting. Y'all, one of the coolest things I found last year, again, I'm old and so I'm just learning some of these things. There's these cards that are virtual business cards. So like I think one's called the dot card or something. It's like literally dot.com. And so like you can make yourself your own virtual business card because people don't really hand out cards anymore. So you make your own virtual card. It has like a little QR code. Someone can scan the code and they get all the things, like all of your contact info, whatever it is you want to put on there. Like you decide what that is. But if you want like your X account on there, if you want LinkedIn on there, if you want the website to your, like I'm trying, okay? X is the website formerly known as Twitter. The website to whatever it is you're working on, if it's not your company website, but maybe you have a side hustle. Look, we're very creative in emergency medicine. Some of y'all might have an art company on the side. I have no idea. But you can actually put all of that stuff on that card, and like all someone has to do, if you have fancy phones, they touch the phones, it'll transfer that information. But if you can also put like a picture, you can put like some notes on there if there's something important you want people to remember about you, which I think has been really helpful. And it felt to me, because I tried it out for the first time at Cord and SMA 2 months ago, the students really liked it. Because like I gave them my personal info, so I might actually answer them and care about them. But the other thing is like it's not another card that they're going to lose. Like it's going to stay in their phone. So that was one way that I thought was like super helpful with networking and made me feel like I was maybe meeting the next generation where they are. Because there's something to be said for cross-generational networking. I think one of the other things with SAM in particular that has been helpful When I was a resident and a student, I can tell you up front that SAM was not my favorite meeting. And the reason why is because SAM talked about a lot of like science and research, and I was really not about that life at that point, okay? I thought ASAP was way more fun because ASAP is more about having a party and networking. But as I became faculty, one of the things I made sure I did, because they paid for my membership to SAM, is I actually joined the academies and committees, and then joined subcommittees that had specific tasks, which is helpful because we all need a direction to go in, right? So like a goal. So the first thing I did in AWIM was I joined a toolkit task force, where we wrote the toolkit on how to have a women in medicine group at your institution. It's still up on the SAM website now because I found it yesterday when I was looking for something else on there. Which the person who said that they were trying to start a group at their new institution, that thing would be very helpful to you because it's like starts from the very beginning.
Actually on my phone.
I got you, girl. I got you. But that helped me network with people I hadn't met before. One of the people I worked with on it is now the A1 president, so we both became president of Academy in the same year, coincidentally. And so I got to know a lot of people a lot better than I would have otherwise, and that has helped me like tremendously. It has helped me write papers. I hate writing. I'll be upfront about that. But if you want me to like collect some data, I'm your girl. I will send an email in a heartbeat. I got a survey, whatever you need. But in terms of like writing, not my forte. But SAM has helped me a lot with trying to network with people who writing is their forte, who can help me figure out how to write the IRB, who can help me design the project in such a way that it's actually effective and can maybe actually get published. I think I've gotten like 4 publications in the past year simply from being on different task force and being part of stuff through SAM. Like right now, our consensus conference is going on. I guarantee you there will be a paper from that. And so last year I participated in the consensus conference. Truth be told, I was voluntold into that, but it worked out well for me. But I guess that's an example of sponsorship gone well. But I will say, like, get involved, show up, make an appearance, see the thing that interests you, do that. And you don't have to pick the hardest thing. Like, I think AWIM usually has like a goal of submitting X number of didactics. Say, cool, I would like to be on the team that's writing the didactics. Which one would you like to sign up for? There's usually one about, like, for RAMs in particular, like, I know several of the groups have a list of, they want to make sure that the list of EMIGs for the organization, like for the different schools, is updated, so we have a contact person, all of them. That right there is already a task, and you'll get to network with some other people because of it. And so pick something that you'd like to be a part of, and then execute, show up. Like, showing up is half the battle, like most of the time. Think about women's groups. So I talked to some about AWIM. My university has a women's group. They're actually meeting on Thursday. I'm low-key sad that I'm not going to be there because they're like making floral bouquets as the event, which sounds kind of like lame, but it's way better than the cocktail thing they usually do. So I'm sad that I'm going to miss it, but it's a good way for me to meet all the other women and the other specialties at my hospital because sometimes I need them. So we have a new chair of ophthalmology at our institution who identifies as female. I moved this woman's phone number because you never know when I'm going to need an eyeball consult and someone is going to give me a hard time about it, and she won't, right? Because we're going to be friends. I've already decided. So like, y'all are laughing. This is very important. But think about women's groups, not only in your big organizations, but at your home institutions. Think cross specialty, think cross discipline. The folks who are at university-based programs, think about the basic scientists. Those are the people y'all will never run into in the hospital. But you know what? No one writes an animal protocol better than those people. No one knows how to get money out of nowhere better than they do. No one knows how to pimp the grant office better than they do. They know how to get, like, my institution has a hard time paying your subjects. So if you want to do a research project that involves paying your subjects for their time, you gotta use these special cards called Green Fire cards, and they're a super pain in the tuchus. That being said, all the basic scientists know exactly how that thing works and how you recruit for it and how you pay them out. And so I made friends with several of them so they could teach me how to do it because I'm tired of fighting with the grant office over it. So think about those folks as well. And that brings me to the last one, which I've already talked about in all the other ones, is diversity of connections. And so never think that someone can't help you just because they're not in your discipline. They can be way more help than you would ever consider. the folks, so my school, the health sciences campus is over here, and they put the rest of like the undergrad campus like miles away, okay? Like we're not connected at all, it requires a bus. But those folks on East Campus, that's where all the undergrads are, they are really good at working the system in ways that we aren't because we're not connected to the university in the same way they are. And so having the Dean of Students over there is helpful. Knowing the people in EOC over there is helpful. They know the policies for the institution better than you do, and sometimes you need them so that you can get what you want. They also know what you are entitled to more than you do. And so if you ever have a question about that, those folks are generally very helpful. And so I make it a point to show up at things that nobody expects me to be at. So we have an organization called the Black Faculty Organization at our institution. It is mostly the undergraduate campus faculty. I go every single month. The reason I go every single month is because they know the dirt at the university better than I do, and they will tell it all in the meeting. And so then I find out. See, you're laughing back there, but it's a big deal. I knew when the policy was about to change about grants. I knew when they were about to cut off diversity sponsorships, and so that you cannot apply for a grant in the coming year that has the word diversity, equity, or inclusion in it, which is going to mess up my research, but it's okay, I got a backup plan. So, like, because I knew about this in advance, and if I hadn't shown up to that meeting, I wouldn't have known because they still haven't made the formal announcement yet. They are waiting until everybody's about to leave for the summer, which is now. They're going to sneak that in there with an email, hope that nobody sees it till we get back in the fall. Smart, smart. I understand how they operate. But see, I know how this goes down, and so the diversity of connections has served me well, and so I'm advising all of you to do this. The Harvard Business Review has actually put out there that there's 3 forms of networking. They talk about them as operational, personal, and strategic, and most leaders really focus on operational and personal. So operational, their network involves the people that you have to work with. So as a residency program director, there's people I have to work with. Above me is my chair, and then below me, I guess if you want to look at it as like a triangle system, would be like my APDs. And I would say my program coordinator is probably like adjacent on there. I wouldn't put her below because I'd probably answer to her, to be honest. But these are people that I have to work with, right? Like I network with them. I mean, I've hired some of them personally, but those are people that the organization does not work without them, and we're going to have to get along, right? So operational is thinking about mostly internal people and people who are oriented towards whatever it is you're doing. So most leaders focus on that, and then they focus on personal. So personal is like the people who help their professional and personal development. Those are, think about those people as like your friends. Those are mostly external to the organization, and they're oriented towards the things that interest you, your personal interests. So I think about those folks as a lot of the people I hang out with at SAEM, to be honest. Like they're not really operational because I can do my job at home just fine if I didn't know them, but my life is way better and my professional development is way better having them in my life. But folks who really have mastered networking think about things strategically. And so those are people who are thinking about like how we had y'all set goals, how all of those people, both operational and personal, can help you achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. So like at one point I had this whole goal of being dean of a medical school. I've since let that go because it doesn't look like any fun, to be honest. But the things that I really thought about is like who could help me like make that possible? What requirements do I have to meet theoretically in order to get that job? I am well aware that the requirements for me to become a dean are going to be much higher than the vast majority of people, right? Not only do I have 2 X chromosomes, but I'm also 2 brown. And so I understand that like I'm gonna have to be twice as good in order to maybe be even considered for the job. That actually is not a deterrent, mostly because I do all things through spite, which empowers me. So that was not a deterrent, but the lack of fun in the job did not actually appeal to me, so I let that go. But I actually started thinking about who at other institutions has done this before. Who can I make nice with to help guide me on my journey and tell me that maybe this ain't the right thing to do because I don't think it'll be any fun for you, which is correct. But make sure that you think about like both the people inside and outside your network and how they can build you towards the goal which you're trying to achieve. Think about your local institution resources. So at my institution, we actually have writing accountability groups. And those groups are made up of different folks depending on like which one you choose. So a lot of them are based on time of day. And anyone can be in that group, y'all. It'd be postdocs, folks from the English department, folks from sociology, folks from public health. And that's kind of fun because you're writing about different stuff that doesn't overlap as much, and so that part's pretty good, but it's a place for us to be to get the job done. Like, we all have tasks that we're supposed to achieve. We talk about it at the beginning. Today, I'm going to write the methods section of my paper. And then everybody writes down their goal, and then y'all have 2 hours to work on it, and at the end of it, we regroup. Did you write the thing you were supposed to write? Why did you write? Like, you know, why did you not get it done? Or what barriers do you have? Can anybody fill in gaps? Which is nice. There's affinity groups, so we talk some about women in medicine groups. We have some affinity groups for folks of different backgrounds. We have an LGBT group at our institution. We also have a Black faculty group. There's, of course, SNMA, LMSA, those groups as well. There's institutional mentoring programs. Y'all use the internet. If you are at a university, I guarantee you they have most of this stuff. You just might not know you can join it as health science faculty, but you can, because the institution does not code you differently as faculty than they do the English faculty. But there's usually like some sort of like mentoring program. So we have one for women. It's called MAP Mentoring, and I don't remember what the P stands for. They're assigned a mentor usually from a different department to help orient you to the system, because it's usually junior faculty, what you need for promotion. They start you on a research project so that you can like start having scholarly activity to help your CV. You don't actually finish the project during it, but they at least get you down the pipeline so that you're started in that direction. And that program also introduces you to the resources of the institution. So how does the library work? What type of stuff do they offer? Like, we actually have ref works for free. I didn't know that. We actually have folks who will sit down and help you write a systematic review in the library. All you gotta do is agree to let them be on your paper. And they do like 50% of the work. I had no clue. This seems like a good thing to try. I'm trying it next year for fun. I've already sketched it out. I think the other thing is like check your Office of Faculty Development. So my institution has an Office of Faculty Development professional something or other. And so they put on different seminars like every month on different things, and you can request. So I requested that I want junior faculty to have a webinar on how to write a case report because it's low-hanging fruit. And so I think that it's a good way for you to get your first publication. We see a lot of interesting stuff because we have a lot of farmers where we live who don't come to the hospital for several years and then have weird presentations of fun stuff, which is probably not good for the patient, but it's very entertaining for us. So it makes good for case reports. So we talked about that. They're going to have it next month. They've already recruited a faculty member to give the thing, and have already emailed me and say, hey, thank you for your suggestion. This is what it is. Hope you can make it. They've also done some other fun things because they're also focused on wellness. So they've done stuff about like calligraphy, which is a good way for you to meet different people who are interested in your interests and passions. So they've done calligraphy. They've done axe throwing. They brought the horse to campus one time. I was like, pet the horse, because apparently that was for wellness. I don't get it, but hey, whatever. I won't knock it. But like they're a great website to like help like come up with things to do, how to network. For those of you who are at new institutions, it's a great way for you to meet other people like in a more fun environment, more relaxed. So I want you guys to think about your current network, and we're gonna do a little activity at the end of my section. Thinking about your current network. And so this is thinking about network mapping. So who is it that you already know? Think about faculty in your department, department leaders, leaders in other departments if you want, because like I told you, I'm about to be besties with the optho chair. Think about mentors, subspecialists that you may need. One of my new faculty is married to an ENT surgeon, so I might need him at some point. We're about to be friends too. And then also think about your friends. Who are you friendly with in other departments? What is it that they're working on? So I like to know what my friends' goals are because I like to figure out how I can help them achieve those goals. And do we have any that are in line with one another? Because if we do, maybe we can rise together. And that has helped. So I needed a poster for Medical Education Day because I was told I had to present at it, and I was like, I got nothing. So I talked to my friend that's clerkship director for OB, and she's like, hey, you know what? We haven't done a perimortem C-section thing, and why don't we create something? So we did. We created a whole sim on perimortem C-section. We created an entire like strap-on belly thing for the sim man. It's got layers, involved a lot of arts and crafts and a lot of spray glue, and it was a little much. But like we did a whole sim with it and then ended up writing it up, not only as my project for Med Ed Day, but it also doubled as my ASAP teaching fellowship project. So she got something out of it and I got something out of it, and my residents win too because they got to cut stuff and they're always in favor of that. So it worked out for all of us. But think about your network very broadly. Think about it large, not just like the people who are immediately connected to you. And then always think about like national organizations, and you can start thinking outside of the box too. So these are the big ones for us, right? So the ACGME and the AAAC. Thinking about ASIP and SAEM and CORD and stuff. But there's also some other like smaller ones. So I've been introduced to NAMI, which is the National Academy of Minority Medical Educators. So I'm going to try to start getting involved with them because I'm just interested in what they have to say. Your institution might sponsor you a membership to the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, which has a lot of stuff in there about mentorship and promotion and tenure and writing. They actually do every quarter, I think, 2 weeks worth of timed writing, and like you just log into the thing and like you're accountable for it. You tell them what time of day you're going to do it, and it starts a timer. You're supposed to write for 30 minutes and then like write a little ditty on what you got out of it or whatnot. But it's really nice for writing accountability if you're someone who can't sit still like I am. So it works out pretty well. But they also have a lot of videos and things about being faculty, how to be better faculty, how to teach, thinking about evaluations, that kind of stuff, which I thought was super helpful. And then we talked some about women's groups already, but we actually have a lot of women's groups in medicine. AMWA, let me put a plug for AMWA. AMWA is actually partnering with AWEM this year. And so as an AWEM member, you get like an affiliate membership in AMWA. You just gotta like fill out the form and join it. They will have a booth in our exhibit hall starting tomorrow. So if you're interested in joining AMWA, and many of your medical school campuses probably have a chapter. AWEM, of course. The association, American Association of Women Emergency Physicians is the like Women's Academy in ASEP. AEM has one. They actually had a really cool jacket last year that I thought about buying, but I didn't quite make it that far. But I actually thought their swag was pretty nice. And then Feminium is, I think, rebooting because Dara stepped down from being in charge. But they still have PEM and EM, which has been, I think their meeting will be in October in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're interested in that, like, I think it's the next way to go. Which brings us to our next project. And so what we would like everybody to do, we got you some big paper, and our awesome MSA brought us some extra markers because she was happy to have them in her backpack waiting for her. But we would actually like for you to think about and draw your network map. And think kind of broadly because you don't actually realize how many people you know. And folks that are at new institutions, this might be helpful for you so you can start figuring out where you want to go and who you want to meet if you haven't met them yet. So if you don't know their name, because I'm sometimes terrible at that, you can write chair of department, head of such and such, if that works better. And then you have a new goal, which is to look up who those people are so you know how to meet them.
I'm going to flip back to the slide that Melissa showed us. Just in case this helps you think about what this network looks like for you and like where your people are, you know, who do you currently have, who do you want to have? So you can take it off the wall and like put it someplace else. You can use it on the wall. You can use your regular size paper if you're feeling like that's a more manageable size for you. You take like 10 minutes and work on drawing this out. And for anyone that wants very cool colored Sharpies, again, thanks to Morgan, you can just come up here and grab one, as long as they've made it.
I don't know. Make sure it doesn't bleed through onto the wall.
Oh. We would probably lose more.
Well, we can also use we have extra posters.
Yeah, you can use we have more easels in the back. If you're feeling artistic and you want to like go to an easel and draw it out, you can do that too.
Do this.
Hi, how's it going? That's so great.
That was how I did.
Well, here. That's awesome. I love it. Such a nice job. Bringing it home.
I didn't do it that way because I didn't have it. I made it tags and my tags. Some people were wanting to tax this forever.
I was gonna say, I feel like it uses people outside of.
But I don't know why. My mom eats ice cream like her growing childhood. Why? If I eat it like that, I would have 6 pounds.
I feel like
you should show Notion at some point. This is cool.
Her Notion.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I did get into it. You still haven't taught me.
All my tags.
Can you then like put it into a like
Well,
thing, or this is just?
I'm gonna try.
That's a former friend. Just get those like for me.
No, people who have been around for like Lexi, forever friend. How do you quantify her?
She's not here. She goes in trouble.
She took a 3-week road trip. And she's just getting back to life. I really started after that. Or across the US and Canada.
He's probably right.
Hmm?
I think he's probably right. Like, the van life, I think, is much more romantic and thought than.
We just want everything. I think we do that.
That's like a very impressive.
But it has, there's a, this is our room, and then that's a secret room for my small child. So it's behind that door. So that's his like hidden room. It's kind of hilarious. Don't talk to me.
They be able to? Yeah, but just wondering, but they submit this.
Will they still have access to it?
Will they still have access to it? Should we link to a? Like a
Google
Google
Doc.
Doc. Where the hell? Because that way they know that we. Networking.
like,
Yes.
yeah, you said Queen's Park next week. But now that we're talking, yeah.
So it's like you just said.
And have a week conference. And that's on the night before conference. So you don't have to work. Because he thinks you should do that. This is a new chief. No. I mean, somebody was talking, he's just got mild. He's getting very I was able to know my own schedule. I could work off that. So he was interested in he hasn't responded to me in a while, so he's very clear. Get to this. And then I'm taking it away, but you're like, my entire team's ability to be a solution. So, yeah.
As you guys build your networks out, think back to the goals that you wrote down in the first session and start to identify if there's goals that you have, like where are the mentors on your network? And if you don't have someone on your network, just jot down, you know, like where are the places where you're missing that person? And we'll just do a couple minutes and then we're going to do a little bit of a group, you know, small group share at the end of that. And then once you have your network map with people at your table, take a few moments and just share, like, how did you find your mentors? You know, Cassie just did a really nice job going through a lot of the different outlets that exist to help people find. So where did you find your mentors? And just talk a little bit about maybe how those mentors have filled in a niche for you or where they've been in your whole sort of network and your goal setting.
EDUs?
So I have like a miniature.
Yeah.
Where I was trying to be.
It's like when you are trying to remember to reach out to people that are is that just a note?
This is, no, this is, yeah, so it is. But different, it makes them and so yeah, I was trying to do a better job of remembering to reach out to especially the people that
Zeta? Everyone was a Zeta. Okay, cool. I just didn't know which version you were in. I know, but when you said it, I was like, it was actually, yeah, I didn't think about it. Yeah, honestly, I know. Someone's actually trying to start up that's really good. Yeah.
And that was like for your undergrad or med school?
It was during med school.
But it was your like, I was like the undergrad is part of my institution. Gotcha. That's cool.
He said this one is good, it's more like a chain of
So we studied that within our program. I was like, okay, I'm interested in that if I can teach it. And I've had experience in SIM and I had to start from scratch, like designing a program. For me, it's very like, right. So I've done a little collaborative, like what is like, the SAEM SIM tool, especially board in so I knew what I was using and we all together. And I think for most of the in the past few years, instead of having specific fellowships, a lot of us have kind of like grandfather in the program, and that's a little opportunity for us to really kind of shape how we want to in the future. So in that sense, it's not so much like, I guess mentorship. That it's more of an email where in terms of the people that they are. But one of the things we showed in our institution before we had the emergency medicine program, we had right now we built a brain academic center for brain SIM. Everything was the university. So it's kind of like trying to find a niche right now within our and be very involved and like be put up for promotion in that SIM center. Because we're supposed to do it. But also we have the literature for operation, the right now we study doing some more stuff, but it was really, I feel like,
I just wanted to see how we said that.
Emails that I got from said,
Neither of us are.
I mean, she still is my when she died in me, I had no idea that I
One of my like daily goals is to reach out to 3 people a day because like but most of the time it's really It was aviation, so he did that program. I think that stemmed from like aviation. Yes. Yeah, so yeah, he did that program.
Are you like a?
Yes.
I'm
starting out by actually figuring lessons for the so I plan to.
Who can you do text?
Yeah, also I don't talk like I don't know this. I have a little
kind of like certification, but that's to the international, the ISH Institute, they do that programs.
The people I'm trying to figure this out with are alumni.
And he's a good program, yeah.
They didn't pick up on it. What else? I mean, it makes you think about
very, very involved, everything. This, you know, those things we said, big organizations like that, I like, it's not something I have on there. But I could go and like, I think we should start. I'm gonna say specifically making this one in medicine for all the residents, and that's right when they started, like, we need y'all, we've actually had like a couple. They, like, we had like a bunch of different things, like aligned with your weird combined things, like, it was fun. It was, no, it's fun. And they're very like young. I'm either 2-3 years out of this summer, it's like at residency. So they're like, we're not older. We know exactly what you're going through. And I'm very excited like our residency program was just I know it's super not and it shows. And anything is also reflected in the hiring stuff. You know, like they're just years of plus. And then I'm in there, and so I'm like, we're feeling it a lot that I've had little jobs like that. Also, like the grad family, like that's why I use like having these really having to scap out myself. That's the way that it's. Sometimes it's good to understand. Yeah, I feel that way every year. Like another one. So that's meant to be yeah.
lot of times, like, I know where I am, and because I'm in Nigeria, so it reaches to the children, you know, and then I told them, I was in DC, so I was like, if you stay in DC, who's gonna have to go to, I try to go with my husband, say, okay, so why do they, you know, why it's all, he saves money, and we usually find the hours have a or not. Yeah, that's why, and at the time, when I kind of moved to Florida, I didn't think the political climate was like that. But still, I didn't mind to be honest, like, you know what, my older this is what I was in all of us, being in the military and doing all over the world. Hopefully you like it. I didn't mind doing it. I'm gonna find a niche, and wherever you go, I mean, like, I don't mind to reach out, that's what's telling me right now. Is I have really one time for residency, and I know you know that because when we look down, it's just not like that. Yeah, so you trying really hard, and everybody looking to use extremely people that are things gonna start changing. But don't let that intimidate you. You know, if you train there, you like the area, you like the people, and I think by being there, you're gonna attract people as well. But you know, we definitely have a lot of money and right now, this person will be like part of it. Still,
All right, you guys, we'll slowly start to come back. If you guys are okay with it, we'll transition into the third block and then take one more sort of formal biofood nourishment break, just to make sure we stay on task and, definitely don't want you guys to, stay late or suffer any, sitting is a hard thing to do for 4 hours. But I just want to start to transition us a little bit into establishing and maintaining that mentorship relationship. And again, like I mentioned earlier, I think like all relationships, these take some effort. Some of them start organically, but that maintenance of the relationship takes some effort. And it's really important that we are consistent and deliberate with how we approach these relationships. So there's sort of three pieces that once you establish the relationship, there's these three forces that are at play. So the first is building trust. We're going to talk a little bit, Melissa mentioned earlier in the session about a couple different types of trust. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about how you build that momentum in your mentorship relationship. Then that third piece, which is paying it forward. So I want to bring us back to these two different types of trust. And again, that trust piece is really foundational for us to be innovative and collaborative in these relationships. And so when you break it down to these two different types of trust, I think it helps to conceptualize what this looks like. I will tell you, as we discuss these two types of trust, it's very bidirectional. And so it's hard to say, well, as the mentor, this is what you should have, and your mentee doesn't have to have it. These relationships are often bidirectional, and your mentor wants to get something out of this relationship too. We've talked about that piece as well, that it shouldn't just be sort of you taking from your mentor, but also you giving back. And so these two types of trust are really important. So there's the competence-based trust, which is that, that you can trust that the person is going to do what they say. And then the benevolence-based trust, which is the trust that we have that someone has our best interest in mind. And you really need that benevolence-based trust so that you have safety in sharing your new ideas. This is where the space comes to be collaborative and to share new ideas. Without that competence-based trust, you lose the trust in that insight or that the advice that person is giving or the suggestions that they're making, because there's not the trust that person can follow through or that they are able to do what they're going to say. So really this relationship requires a couple different types of trust. Also, as Melissa mentioned, it may not surprise you that women do tend to seek out mentors that provide a little bit more of this benevolence-based trust. And a lot of that is because we are looking for that safe space to have our voice be heard. And I think, we've all been in those experiences where it feels easy to get shut down. And so having a mentor relationship where you can say, like, I think I want to be chair someday is like not crazy. And that person is like, yes, like let's try to help you figure out how to be chair someday. And so you really need to have both. But again, as women, we tend to go more for that benevolence-based trust. So how do we do this then? That's what they are. How do we establish this? So the first one is with competence-based trust to demonstrate your capability and expertise. And one of the big ways to do this is don't downplay your abilities. And I'm going to slightly call out Melissa Parsons on this because she stood up here earlier and gave this example of like, and if you want to write a grant, don't come to me. When in fact, like she got a grant to do this whole project that started this idea to have this workshop, all right? So go to her if you want to know how to write a grant. But so you want to demonstrate, right? You have, we hear about this a lot, especially I think in our like women mentorship and networking conversations, that we need to be self-promoters. We need to say what we are doing. We need to label what we are doing. If you get an award, you need to tell your chair, I got this award. But then we also need to make sure we're not downplaying our abilities. We can do this by being very concrete, giving concrete examples or storytelling, especially if your mentor is someone that maybe is new to you, someone that you meet at a conference like this, and you say, you know what, I really like what you've done in your career thus far, and it's really what I aspire to be in like 5 years. Could we meet and talk about it? And then when you're establishing that relationship, give these examples of what it is that you've done. And then be consistent, all right? This is a really important one. Be consistent. If you say that you're going to do something, follow through with it. And if you can't, say why you can't. Otherwise, you lose that trust that someone's like, I'm going to give this person something to do, and then they're not going to follow through. This is really important, especially when it comes to sponsorship, and somebody is putting themselves out there to promote you to do something or take on a leadership role. If you can't commit to it, won't commit to it, it reflects poorly on your sponsor and then your mentor too. So it's really important to be consistent in the things that you are asked to do and the things that you say you're going to do. Now, on the flip side, to really build this benevolence-based trust, the first is to listen. It's really hard, me especially, but it's hard to just listen, but I've really actually worked on this, is trying to just sit and listen. We're going to talk about what kind of listening matters in a couple of slides here. The next is to give. So remembering that this is bidirectional and, giving of your time and your talent and your expertise, this will play into that pay it forward piece. But really, being able to give of your own expertise without asking for something in return can help to establish this benevolence-based trust, where this isn't a transactional relationship where I'm just doing something because I expect something in return, but really because you believe in that person and you want them to do well. And again, that's what you should be looking for in your mentor, that they're not just giving to you because they expect something in return, but truly because they want you to be successful. And then to connect, we want to, I'll talk about this a little bit more as well, but be clear with your mentor about why you are wanting to get to know them or wanting to have that mentorship relationship. Some of the studies have shown that you shouldn't just pick someone because they are a chair, right? Just having someone who is a chair is not sufficient. It needs to be, a chair that is a female and has gotten there within 10 years and you really like their leadership style or whatever it is. Have that piece of connection and then also try to get to know them as an individual. This is really more of that mentorship relationship as opposed to that sponsor, which might just be a little bit more of this firm hierarchical space. That mentorship relationship where you really want to get to know them as an individual as well. This is one of the quotes from our study. But I really liked it. And this person said, I think you establish good working relationships with collaborators and colleagues by doing exactly what you say you're going to do and getting it done, right? And that's that piece of that competence-based trust that you have to be able to follow through. Now, we talked about listening, and it's not just sort of blankly listening and like running through your grocery list in your mind, but really thinking about this how do we build this psychological safety, and how do we do curious listening? This dabbles a little bit into the coaching realm, right, where you don't provide answers for someone, but you're asking them to provide the answers for themselves. So again, if you're the mentee, you can even, do this to your mentor. If you're in the mentor role, do this to your mentee. But just saying, like, I'd love to hear more about that. Tell me why you think that way. Tell me why you responded in that way. So sit and listen, and right, by demonstrating that you hear what they're saying and you actually want to know more. This is that piece of benevolence-based trust, that you're really wanting to understand not just that end point, but how did they get to that end point? Why did they make that decision? What factors went into play? What were the challenges that they had with it? So you can look up strategies on curious listening, and that can be really helpful. And then there's just some sort of nuts and bolts and logistics about building this relationship. So on that very first meeting, again, this might depend a little bit whether this is like an organic relationship that you've had forever. My very first program director, Megan, was Stephen Wolf still program director when you were there? No, okay. Stephen Wolf was my program director for my first 2 years of residency, and then he left. But he and I have like maintained a friendship. It's probably mentorship. We've never labeled it as such. So like, and we've been, we've had this for like a decade now. So this wouldn't apply to someone that you know really well. But to that person, again, that you meet here, that's on a committee, that you're like, I love what you're doing, I'd love to know more. First, have a clear ask, right? So I would love to meet with you to learn more about how you got this position at your hospital. I'd love to meet with you to learn more about your decision to do a SIM fellowship and why you did that. Understand sort of why you are asking them. Again, this gets out of just because you're a fellowship director and I just want anyone who's a fellowship director. Have an understanding about why you are asking them for that. Come prepared, right? So have some questions in mind. There's nothing more awkward than sitting down to this meeting and like someone takes their time and you sit down and you're like, so, like, what do you have for breakfast? Like, have an idea about what it is that you want to do. And again, this comes down to your goals, right? So think about those goals that you wrote down, then think about your network map, think about why you've chosen this person, and have questions prepared. Fit is a tricky word, but you do want to make sure, right? Like maybe, again, if this is someone you don't know well, you know them a little, you sort of have a brief knowledge of them through some interaction you've had, make sure that actually this is going to be a good longitudinal fit. Maybe you meet with them and actually what you thought wasn't the case. They actually are like transitioning out of that role. They're not going to be, the best person for that. Just make sure that it is a good fit. This isn't, you're not, this isn't like a forever friendship or forever relationship. We're going to talk a little bit about how these relationships morph. So just make sure that there is that good fit, that you feel both of those types of trust in that relationship because you really need both of them. And then make sure you send that follow-up communication, right? Close the loop with them. Thank you so much for meeting with me to discuss how you, made that transition from institutions, like from where you trained to a brand new institution where you didn't talk to anyone. I really took this away. And then, sort of talk about the next meetings, which will be my next slide. If you can, try to make the meeting in person, especially for the first meeting. If they're at your same institution, much easier. But otherwise, use these national meetings as an opportunity to sit down and meet with someone in person. Even if you usually meet virtually, you have an established mentor relationship, this is a great time to just sit down and have that face-to-face with someone. Okay, so for some future meetings, decide on the cadence. Make sure, you're not going to be that person that's like, I would like to talk to you every day at 5 p.m. on your way home and see how your day went. Check with them. Like, would it be okay if I reached out to you and set up a cadence of meetings every month or every 3 months? Decide what it is that you need, what this person is providing to you, and how you can establish that. Ask about the communication platform. Is email better? Are they on Slack? Do they do WhatsApp? Do they want text messages? Do they only want phone communication? Just, figure out what works for the both of you. It will be different, but especially if your mentor or the sponsor is sort of in a hierarchical position, find the way that's easiest for them. My chair, when we first started meeting, my chair is one of my mentors, and she wanted me to use Evernote to put our agenda up there. And that's, I think she likes to know what our meetings are going to be about and what it is that I'm going to want to discuss. I don't like Evernote. I don't use it. I had to download an app for it. But that is what works for her. So have that conversation about what is the communication platform that is most convenient. Keep it simple. Think about, what is your one goal for that meeting? What is the one or two things you want to talk about? Again, it keeps that direction to the meeting. It keeps the focus of the meeting. It keeps the reason why you were talking to that individual. And then focus on that throughout the meeting, and then build on what you did the previous meeting. Again, this shows your mentor that you are listening to them, that you're taking their advice to heart, that what they're saying or doing or advising is sinking in. So tell them, I took your advice. I joined a committee at SAEM. I'm really excited to see what my opportunities are. We're not getting any kickback for plugging SAEM committees, just so you know. But I think we've all talked about SAEM committees. But just build on what they've advised you to do. Oh, and then come prepared. I think we talked about this in the last one too, right? But have some questions, know what's going to happen with that time. Okay, and then you need to build that momentum, right? So you should have something sort of that keeps this relationship moving forward, and think about those short, medium, and long-term goals, right? By next year, I would really love to have published something, or started to work on a grant, or submitted an IRB, or applied for an APD position and interviewed somewhere. Think about what that goal is and what that time frame is for it. And this gives that relationship a sense of purpose, right? It's part of this journey. It has this goal. It has this focus. And then you want to start highlighting your success. This is a really important part of that bi-directional relationship, right? So show your mentor what you've done. This again goes a little bit back to that concrete part about that competence-based trust, but show them the things that you've done. Show that the mentor that they're providing value. Celebrate the wins that you have together. You can create a portfolio. There's several things sort of out there right now about an educator's portfolio. I will tell you, I think it's really helpful to identify sort of your network map, what are you doing? What are the themes in what you're doing? Are there gaps in what you're doing? Are there holes? If you really want to get into the UME world, where are you focusing your attention? It helps you to know what to say no to. But work on this with your mentor. Again, especially if your goal is to get into the UME world, find someone there and look at your portfolio together. See what you have published. What are the committee roles you have at your local institution, at your med school, and what do you need to move into? And this can create sort of a shared mental model and a visual for all of you to work off of to figure out what the needs are. And then allow evolution of the relationship. There may be times when that mentorship relationship phases out, and that's okay. As you grow, as you change, as your leadership interests change. Cassie talked about how she totally, she wanted to be dean of a med school, and you're going to find mentors that support you in that. And then when you decide that's actually no longer your trajectory, you don't have to keep those relationships, and it's fine for both, right? Transition on, find new mentors, and thank that mentor for the work that they've done. Okay. This is just to sort of remind you to check in with everybody on that network map that you wrote. Try to have some sort of regular cadence through which you check in with those people. Some of them might just be a PRN basis, I reach out to my program director friends when I'm oh my gosh, I have a total crisis, well, how have you guys done this? But some of them might be more regular. So think about, how do you nurture these relationships? How do you continue to grow them? What's the cadence with which you reach out to these people, and make sure that it's happening. And then finally, you want to share your journey with others. You want to pay it forward. Take on that mentor role. Everybody in this room is in the position to be a mentor to somebody else, whether you're a resident and you can be a mentor to a junior resident. If you're a female senior resident, you might talk to the incoming intern in June or July and make sure they know what their options are in terms of connecting with other people. If you're junior faculty, there's definitely residents that are going to be looking to you for what you did. So all of us have something to offer. I think it's very easy to get stuck in that imposter syndrome of oh my gosh, you sort of feel like an internal mess all the time. But in fact, you actually have a lot to offer. So pay it forward and become that mentor, and then eventually that sponsor for other people. Okay, I blazed through that. But We're going to go into a little bit of a group chair, and then we'll take a break. But I want you in your small groups to really look at these 3 questions. So how have you maintained your mentor relationships? How have you, kept them up? What have been the trouble points in mentor relationships? And then when you got to those sticky points, were there any ways that you were able to resolve those? So let's take about 10 minutes, talk about this in your small group, and then we'll come back together before we take a break. I'll go sit over here this audio.
Yeah, it wasn't even on there.
I didn't think you guys saw it.
True. She's really the second person on there.
I didn't think you guys, there's supposed to be an England bubble.
True. That's why you need tags, and you're just like, I can have 3 tags.
I did expect some people on like 90 minutes gonna get out GLD. It's like, oh, you did it once, and then she has to.
I mean, I'm Florida, Pennsylvania, so
Because we were connected before PE.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how we ended up doing so many talks together. It was like just weirdly, and I think. Tree.
I have things right now that I try to do.
Yeah, Tree, Lexi.
The residency here, checking in, we feel like things are overwhelmed, what do I do? Like scholar culture, and so forth, getting up to
Here in the 3 days, I'm available. I love watching that. I didn't know that. It was like so much better. You know?
She bosses me, and I'm great listening.
I'm telling you, like, yeah, it's someone who say on the other side of things, like, I love it when they tell me, like, when they're very cool, when they want me, and do not feel bad. That's what I'm saying. I'm just another person that ever gotten away, right? No, I was just like,
We're like the mental capacity that probably is.
that's like the there's a lot of work I do when I'm people, I don't think that makes you a bad thing. But I don't drive. If you, the turn, it works out well.
She's like the beneficiary.
But it works better if you don't do both. If I heard the bus, this wouldn't go well. I also counsel someone after
I used to like to store 3 hours. Now it's like there's something every hour until 6 or 7 p.m. We have to like choose, like,
That's a great
But I mean, like, honestly,
yeah.
if there's meetings, to be honest. So I mean, like, I think the hardest part is like, have these dry meetings and like,
me too.
and then I'm like,
I know.
I want something I can have, but like, you just really breathe it. No, I guess maybe I don't want to like now ways to like give and I will not use like some of the ones that are not the ones you build naturally, not the ones that you're assigned. One of my residents went out early on that leave over the New Year's holiday.
directors, because they have to do the like, paperwork and
Right.
yeah.
So whatever you want to do. Right.
I guess at some point, if I read that, some like makes sense. Like me early on, I feel like somebody and I kind of love like the other five, is that relationship? And there's a time that I'm working at residency slots. The schedule is really nice. I need my sleep. If I don't sleep, I can't function. Even though I work nights. Even if there's something I don't like, unless blood is going out, pressure's not holding it, I will not wake up on it.
And I'm comfy.
So I think that was, well, and I think it's really close to our hotel. Yeah. Okay.
My chair is on.
Would you get that out of here?
They have a lot of different options.
I didn't know that was a big parent.
I've been watching them.
And then like, you're responsible for
Communication, dinners, email.
I'm so tired. It was so impactful.
Yeah.
It took me a while. So you have to learn how to say no.
I have a lot of volunteers,
You know.
No, I'm actually curious about that.
Yeah, so what the SAEM grant all it did was study collect information a lot of if I did, because I love those things how did I've tried so many things from like just listening everybody I like talk different things from as I got to because I listened to everybody's interviews
values and direction, but like,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, so actually, so Sarah has done, I have done no quality. So Sarah was your mentors, and then like got me into Krzyzaniak, so.
Yeah, I think it might be, I think it's totally fair, like what you're passionate about, right? It's something that you don't think lines up with what you see yourself wanting and big ideas, then you have probably a fundamental issue there. So that's not gonna be worth your time and effort to keep that relationship going. But it may be something that, I was gonna say, how often it's a challenge on and you don't like it, maybe it's actually worth it.
It takes a long time to go, it takes like way more.
10 hours
per.
per.
The RAs did all the interviews, and I would have to.
Gender you want.
And then we actually, they just sent it back.
It's not gonna be fun, but you need to just really go back and think that that's gonna help you. Okay. We're going to they were right.
It was like, we were like ready to publish this paper, and then I was like, they're like, you're not. And I was like, you guys have any? So I'm gonna try to.
So there's something you can.
I feel like I have, I'm sure
Like, you haven't submitted my paper yet, I'll see whatever I can look at.
I don't talk to you for 4 years, and then just like,
Everybody was like,
yeah.
yeah, I was like, oh no, no, no. I'm gonna call more over in general, but like it's like head back.
I'd be like, I'm gonna,
I think it's part of like
randomly email something.
Well, it's also part of being a thing.
Yeah. Oh my god.
As you get less sleeper press, it does actually make a record place somewhere, but.
I like it when you tell me why. It's like all it takes is like like rush those in your calendar, just like just like 5 minutes.
Yeah, you know, like, how did it happen?
Yeah,
you know.
My, that's particularly things are in my favorite place.
Like, how you first, you know, like, someone with some, like, operational title, like, things, like,
So we're gonna switch.
yeah.
You're gonna sit next to me. So he's using you instead of my computer as a diagram. We liked it this morning. I don't know. We're on Florida time, and I'm covering something I didn't know. So in 6.
I guess everyone on the house. You're not
Wait, they're going tonight?
No, they're going to a meeting game.
Yeah.
Related to
So yeah, he's very good at.
I ran into like a contract and then hey, what are you now? He's like, so you're healthy. I was like, what are you doing these days? He's like, I coached him to give me
He did that all.
He was like, oh, listen, you know, we have all these programs. I was like, don't even figure out the other. He's like, wild.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what about Florida? It's worse than Florida.
It's so much worse than Florida.
That's just not your mission.
Yeah.
Wait, that's what I'm saying. It's worse than Florida.
He has a very unique name.
I was thinking about like eating. It's like we're not gonna do something. Louisiana's even worse than Florida too.
Yeah.
They must like.
I grew up in my house, but brother was like,
He's like, you start asking.
Yeah.
So I was like, people that have been that past before, and so I was just gonna get
Yes.
first I think that's 20%. And then,
My job is, are we, and is this going to the beach?
When he came out, she's not good at looking out.
Louisiana.
And then she spoke at our women in medicine and I went. Okay.
like, just, I mean, I think it's more legit to admit that, like, and I drive.
Yeah. Like equity.
Maybe it's more like, but I feel like medicine,
Florida.
Paris, I don't know if it's just.
It's a common time. I know.
No, actually, like, someone told me, like, also, just like, what's your favorite drink? Anything else? Who wants to say that? Text my friend who said
It's supposed to be the actual, the nice thing is that the actual institution does, you would do things done in the database and has made it like and they're still allocating funding towards it, but not at all. They're really
Relative.
I think I live in the northeast.
Yeah, where these things are accepted.
Yeah.
There's a big thing on like the Educate Act. House representative is trying to get it and that's actually the in medical school, even teaching in medical school. That's like outrageous.
Like you're assigned
medical school, that's like federally like federal fund. If you teach like a medical student how like there's a high mortality for African Americans, it's part of and teaching them like asking them like, hey, do you have lactation? That's disease, what is for if you teach the medical student about that and how like to ask questions, I can do it to the and forget about asking about religion, health and just like that's not what I either about,
And I think that's something we're like totally away from the I like calling it an advisor. It sets a different expectation.
Maybe I'll do that next. Right.
Because you're there.
We did that in we just had our PC meeting.
People like to talk about this.
The sheer interest, this for you, like we're here,
Genetic, right.
That's crazy. And that's like taking the patient, if you have a little bit of risk factors and exactly what to look for, what to think about, and so forth. So that is an extending these efforts on that to be placed in that. I forget where I was talking to us, like, I graduated from Drexel.
Do you think she's here?
I'm sure she's the largest medical class in the country. I mean, that's still the truth now.
I would
But
have better
in my class, I was like that when you book is that
Yeah, I'm trying to get myself fired.
so how is that a threat to you? You still play out your guy, you know, so I don't know. I mean, we're still very, very small.
She's here.
Population and taking care of a large population of minorities, so I understand what's
So,
Don't worry, this is a good friend. It's her emotional.
yeah, same products, yeah.
and so our government but they will be interested in a lot of your
Like we see you like giving the speeches and like doing that.
Everything that I'm presenting here is.
We all get nervous.
I have this, I have cross that really everyone can see it. But it's all really different flows and URiM will the impact of that noise is great. So then I think it's
I don't think it's I don't know what I should go over time in life, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking for fear, but it's like
So like they can't take away the personality, but they can't take away the fact that like wherever you get that,
It exists.
right? I mean,
You're right.
I know.
I mean, they kind of like, it'll be, what is, how you put something on the wall or something like that, like, does that really count, you know, they won't stuff like really count.
I like to be a really big nerd and like their gravel,
Especially not if you got me now.
All the nature, all the those this is not good medicine, you know, I mean, we said that everyone is very vocal about it. And even AMA, you know, which is their say this is not good, we don't want that, but why would we should tell people the medicines that that's not good, and we don't want that, so. What's your agenda? What's your agenda?
I'm tired of fighting like
Kevin's not having this area rotation.
I mean, I really old people are not getting educated. Old people tell you about yourself, and tell you about their lives, and they tell you about yourself. Yes, and then they like to I like they so my wife you're in Oregon.
Yeah, I know. It's hard that when you have like, consider your mind into a practice, your partners and stuff. I'm like, oh, I think it's
I'm gonna need you to iron your shirt. I'll reach
also like, use whatever you have,
Right,
and
so
they
like,
show them, you already have.
if I like, let's say, if I use if I could like any more online years, I probably would change it to set it around I can try to
don't worry, I'm this kind of
part of my
That you've done, whether you have your publication and stuff like that. Establish a network.
I keep updating, we should keep updating our
To do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm also young in the game, but.
Have a lot of software.
I wouldn't hang out.
And then whatever. Software more sanitary references.
I would have a great folder and then they would be like,
yeah. Whatever you do. Yeah. So if you
writing.
I moved from and then whatever is online, I'll grab it. But, yeah.
Don't worry.
Do you do that separate?
Yes.
And now, like,
Always such a good
so like for
not
mine.
not for the long
All right, you guys. Really excellent discussion. I loved like what we were talking about at my table, it looks like you guys are also like having amazing conversations. One thing that just occurred to me in the discussion we had that I'll just throw out there. First of all, when you guys made your networking maps, and you listed either the roles or the people that you want or you need, even if it's someone that's currently like in your circle, this is a really nice opportunity to reach out to them and say, you know, like I went to this workshop, it was so fantastic, and we did this network map. And you were one of the people I listed as someone that I have in my network that I consider a mentor, and I just want to like thank you or just acknowledge it, because sometimes we don't do a great job of being like, will you be my mentor? Like it feels a little bit like 6th grade when you're like, are we boyfriend, girlfriend? Like what are we? So we don't always do a good job of like, exactly, like pass the note through your friends. But we don't do a great job of like labeling it as like what it is. And I will also say, anyone that's gone through an academic promotion knows this, but you have to list your mentors or like who you have mentored. And sometimes, like even for me, I'm like, I feel like I gave that person a lot of advice and I was their mentor, but like would they say the same about me? Like if my chair reached out to them and was like, this person, like Sarah listed that she mentored you, would they be like, what? Or would they say like, yes, like we had this mentor relationship. And so I do think that there is value to labeling it as a mentor relationship, and think about the network map that you made here and consider reaching out to those people, either just to like label it as like, you were a great mentor to me when I was a med student, or you are a great mentor to me now, or I know we've never really talked about it, but I just want you to know, like, I consider you to be a great mentor, and I hope we can continue, like, our mentor relationship, however you want to word it. But I would just encourage you to label it as such. Okay, let's take, like, a 5-minute break, bathroom, water, vegetables or donuts, and we'll come back for the last piece, which is going to be an amazing session on efficiency practices.
All right, everybody. We're going to get started so that we can try to end in a very timely fashion. I love all the conversation that's happening in this room, and I really hate to stifle it in any way, shape, or form, but this is by far and away my favorite section. So I was telling the top table, this was the stuff that was the most fun for me to code as part of the data, because I got to hear all different things that people a lot smarter than me were doing in their life. And so, we've talked a lot about how do we build our network, how do we create these mentorship and sponsorship relationships and kind of develop trust in those relationships. And so now we're going to really talk about efficiency practices. So what do I mean by that? How do we better prioritize using our yeses wisely and saying no as a complete sentence, which I know that we do very infrequently, right? But use our no's intelligently to advance our career, maintaining boundaries. How do we block out time to allow for reflective thinking? And actually, like, for us to use our brains, not just to check things off a to-do list or to do email or to respond to the things that are coming in, but actually to do creative work that a lot of us are in academic medicine because we like that. And then how do we effectively collaborate with others without leading to collaborative overload or collaborative burnout? And so those are some of the things that we're going to talk about as we go through this section, and I'm going to turn it over at this time.
So I just have like a short presentation outline here, and then we'll do like some more group activities and discussion, which are fun. So we'll just go over some like of the unique challenges that we face, especially as women in academic emergency medicine, and some time management like strategies and core principles and strategies for success, and some tools and resources you can take back with you. So just like a really quick intro, we know that time management is key to achieving professional success and personal well-being. Like, we hear the word burnout a lot in today's society, and it's like a big focus ever since COVID. And COVID actually like heightened the inequities that we see between like women and men in academic EM. And there was like a study that was published by some of the AOM executive committee members during COVID that showed that our productivity as women actually went down because we had to worry about homeschooling our children, taking care of the household, and the productivity of our male colleagues actually went up during COVID. and women in general in medicine spend about 15% of their time on tasks that are not promotable. So tasks like scheduling meetings, scheduling departmental events, like they're good things to have for the department, but they don't count towards your promotion. And then there are some certain unique challenges within like emergency medicine that affects like time management. Like we work in a very high-paced, high-pressure environment. Like how many of you like can tell me of a time where like a nurse at work like question your orders or question your plan of care, but do you see that nurse questioning your male colleagues? So like having to like do little things like that and explain your thought process, like that really affects your time management. And we are also like very busy outside of our clinical work, academically and personally. Like I'm a mom, and so the swing shifts, the night shifts, and all that cuts into like childcare issues, school, and like everything else that affects our time and academic productivity. So just jumping into some core principles of time management. The first will be prioritization. So like identifying like what truly matters to you. And I like this Eisenhower time matrix. So it's actually like inspired by President Eisenhower. And it basically breaks things down in terms of what is important and not important on the left-hand side, and at the top, what's urgent and what's not urgent. So the things that are important and urgent are things that you must do right now, because if you don't do them, they have consequences that lead to your long-term success or to some pretty like bad consequences later on. So like an example is like you may have like that grant deadline in a week. So it's something that's very urgent and timely, and if you don't do it, you might not get that funding for that protected time that you need to develop as a researcher. And then the things that are important but are not urgent are things that you can sort of table and leave and do later on. They're important to your long-term goals and development, but they don't have like a pressing deadline like at that moment. So using the grant example, like once you get that funding, you usually have like a period of 2 years or so to finish your project. So doing that project is key to getting more grants in the future, but you're given a little bit of time to finish it. And then things that are not important and urgent are things that affects like your long-term goals and trajectory, but they're things that are not important to you personally. They're things that don't need your specific skill set. So things like scheduling meetings with your research coordinators or your study team, like that's things that you can delegate to other members of the team. And then things that are not important and not urgent are things that you should just check off your list, because these are distractions. So these are the things that won't help you advance to that next step at all. Some other core principles, I think knowing yourself is really important so that you can know what your brand is and know what your long-term vision is, so then you will be better able to say yes or no to the things that truly matters to you and the things that will take you to that next like stage in your career and your life. We already talked about delegation a little bit, but it's really important to empower your team and give them that opportunity to showcase their skill set and contribute equally to the project, but it also helps you to delegate and not be overburdened. And then outsourcing. So that's like a busy academic mom, like I outsource like the house cleaning, the pool cleaning, the lawn maintenance. I outsource as much as I can, so I don't have that mental burden. Like there's little things like add up. And then the importance of trust. Like I know we're like all A-type personalities, and it's probably hard for us to let go sometimes, but sometimes you just have to say, okay, I can't do everything. I just have to delegate and trust others to do it for me and with me. And being adaptable, so like that chameleon, like just being able to pivot where you need and be flexible. And then setting boundaries, which I know is hard and it's not as cut and dry as this image between your personal and professional life, but some practical tips. Like I used to say like, I'll meet at any time. I'll even meet during the weekends or like late into the evenings, which I hated because I was like, I'm missing time with like my kids and like extracurriculars and things like that. So now like I'm very clear like early on, like I will only meet between this time and this time during this day, and like after like a certain hour of the day, like 6 p.m., I'm not going to answer emails until the next day. So setting those clear boundaries early on really helps set that expectation. And then something that I really love is like learning how to say no in a yes way. So this is like a trick that, or a tool that my vice chair of faculty development taught me. Because my chair was like coming up to me and like kept asking me to do like all these really cool projects, which I'm like, I would love to do all of them. Like, yes, you're my chair, of course I'll say yes. But then I like got a little bit overburdened and stretched thin. So now when he comes up to me, I'll say, thanks for inviting me on this project. It's a great idea. I would love to help. However, you assigned this other project to me recently, and I'm wondering which one of these is more important and which one of these can be put on the back burner. So you're saying yes, but you're also like kind of like asking that person to like reflect back what they've asked you to do and reconsider. And then also utilizing some tools for planning and organizing. Some things that work, I think mentioned in like the study that was mentioned before, is like blocking off time for deep work. So especially if you're like me, it's hard for me to like jump from one task to another like after just like an hour. So I block off like half a day or like a full day and dedicate that to grant writing or to writing papers. And that really helps increase like productivity. Some people have used virtual personal assistants. I haven't tried, but that I hear is helpful. So they help with like managing your calendar and like small tasks. And then Calendly is a great scheduling tool, and OnceHub is a similar tool where you just enter in your availability into this system and you send the link, and then the person can choose like whatever time block you're available, and it automatically sends a Zoom link to that person. So there's no back and forth of like, oh, I'm available this day, and then I'm available this day, and let's try to find a match. It just all skips that. And we already talked about like networking and building your networks. I won't spend a lot on this, but I think like maintaining like all of this and being successful, you have to rely on your network. And you have to be able to have like mentors in all of these different areas where you can go to and check in at some point and make sure that you're on the right track. And I don't think like we emphasize this enough, but like being successful long-term and like managing your time well long-term means also scheduling time for yourself and managing your stress and self-care. I hear all the time like people say like, I feel so guilty that I had to take a break. Like instead of like writing this grant today, I just went to the pool. Like you shouldn't feel guilty. You need a break. You're human. We should think of self-care the same way as like a human need as food, water, sleep. And of course, having that growth mindset, continuous learning, that positive outlook really helps maintain your success long-term. And then just briefly, like some leadership skills that enhances time management. Like I think communication is key, like mentioning that already, setting expectations early with your team, making quick decisions helps with your time management as well. So something I do with my inbox to keep it down, because I actually have like 4 emails across my different roles, so it gets to be quite a lot to handle. But I'll either answer your email right away when I see it. If I can answer it, I'll flag it and answer it within 24 or 48 hours if I need to like do some more research before I answer. Or if it's not relevant, I'll just delete it right away. Or if it's like relevant for the future, I'll put it in a folder. And then team building, like building a culture of trust and safety, like making sure that your team all feel like they're contributing equally, that the work is distributed equally, so it's not all on you. And then being realistic, setting realistic goals, and that's the part where knowing yourself is really important. So we've already talked about some of these tools and resources, but the one that I'll touch on here is like the sticky note. So this is a tool that I got from an executive coach for businesses, and it's like something that has helped me quite a lot. So I have 3 to-do lists. Like, one is a less than 2-minute list, one is a greater than 2-minute list, and one is a not right now list. And I look at this like every day and also every week to see if I can shift things around. But basically, the less than 2 minutes list are things like, oh, follow up on that email with this person, or like the little things, the really easy tasks that makes you feel good to check it off, and it builds momentum. The more than 2-minute lists are the things that take a little bit more time, like this. Today, I'm gonna write the introduction section for this paper. And then the not right now list, so if I notice that things are just sitting there, I'll just move it to the not right now list, because they're still important, but obviously they're not important enough for me to get to them. So then like moving it to that list actually like helps decrease like my mental load and pressure too. So now we'll do the individual reflection. So you'll make 3 columns and list out the efficiency habits that you are a master of, like practices that maybe others looked at you and like see you as a role model in, and then practices that you're currently developing, and then practices that you aspire to develop. And then we'll share.
This is what I was supposed to do. You guys feel this? But now I have to figure out how to export all of these apparently. Out of what? Apparently Jamboard is being cheap. I have to download all of our data. Always. Why is that always so true?
I also am like really good at being productive and unproductive, or like productively procrastinating. So like, I have a thing I need to do, but it's not going to be emails, which I need to be done, but not.
Yes, I have to like not get on email.
Like even when it's not coming, I'm like, that's easy, but like quick dopamine, right? You're like, yeah, I got this. Or writing a paper, which is like the slow burn. But then I find out things like I was working on it. I feel like I just watched one over.
You start like from take the car to get into back into.
Oh, see?
I have 3 weeks for that to happen. I did it within a week. Good. Go sit at the dealership for an hour and do that thing.
Mine would like go on for a while. Yeah, see,
My car was in the shop for 2 months, trying to fix my roof for no reason because it didn't need to be fixed that badly. I just had wet ass, but there's a problem. It's a Jeep. You're supposed to get wet. Like, I mean, not that wet. It wasn't problem, but it wasn't a 2 months in the dealership type of problem.
Here's a PD time suck.
I don't know if you're doing
something else that I do everybody's like attestations and verifications and stuff, because you have 30 days to do it, so it doesn't need to be done immediately.
It's credential. Did you see that email yesterday? One of them told the person that I didn't answer their email from 11 a.m. and it was 3 p.m.
I shoot her out.
And I just put in a Google Doc.
I definitely responded to that. Like, you have a credential. I will respond. And then even if I can't do it, I send it.
I like wrote her back and I was like, hey, applicant so-and-so reached out to me and said that I didn't respond to your email from 2 weeks ago. The last time I heard from you was August of 2023, and this is the first request I've had for this, and that was 4 hours ago. So I just want to verify, have you been emailing the wrong person?
I am concerned.
I am just worried that you have accidentally sent her personal information to the wrong person. Like, but there's your
It feels like you've accomplished something because you filled the form out, but that didn't help me in any way, shape, or form. Like, it didn't help my efficiency at all. I switched to using, I switched to using the, like, NEHA for residency verification. This wasn't for the peer references, but for the residency verification form. And so then the single one, now I don't fill out their own individual forms. Have you seen this one?
I have heard about it, but like, if I had, like, do you just fill it out for someone at the beginning when they graduate, and you just send them the same form every time?
Okay. And we would use date because the problem is changing. So that was on our dates on it, and I have this email that says, we use validated forms for the OJ and auxiliary acronyms. And this is what they said, they want to fill out each specific form, it'll be $50.
I like that.
Nobody's paid it, everyone just takes it for it.
I just find it if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm on board with that, it could be $50. Where does that money go?
I tell them to reach out to my coordinator if they want to put it, and I'm actually not always how we do that. But I asked my coordinator to have a system in place, and nobody's reached out to my coordinator to ask for it.
Because I would make them pay no account or my residency on this fund.
I would put them with my, you're very nice. Like, it's what I want to like office DoorDash for all the like admin work that you do to help, you know, these credentialing companies like doing our DoorDash, so we can make lunch for them on the
The residency wellness fund is in my head, and it's whatever I want it to be. Like, it's like, we gotta buy this dumbass toy as a prize for the EKG contest. We were talking about productive procrastination that we need to do, and one of them is the training verifications, because you gotta do it eventually anyway. But it doesn't help you be more efficient. It's just so many new
all the trainings.
Yes.
And then I crap.
I sat down and did all my tests the other day.
All right, you guys, once you have your 3 columns, go ahead and share at your table some of your own personal, like, what are your hacks? What are the things that you're really good at? And maybe pick up on some of the things that other people at your table are doing that you're not doing well and learn something from them.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I do this like HIPAA compliant. Yeah, I would do this like HIPAA compliant thing.
The other thing I was
Write
doing
an intro
at
of the
the
paper
end
that they don't want to write.
That's me.
Yeah.
I
But
put
I'm never
a,
delinquent
because
on
none of my
the
links are
trainings.
working, I put a Google Doc link in that post survey, so you can click it and all the links are in there. And I referenced a one toolkit on creating a women in medicine survey. So all of that will be in there.
I think they're sharing.
And I'm good at that. All right. Whatever I need to do to like, whatever I need to do to like, just help me being well, and sometimes I have to use these like, I think you're putting those in I support my habits, you know. Well, definitely the housekeeping. Yeah, housekeeping, like maintenance, the pool and so forth. Sometimes grocery shopping. You can somebody to like help you with that. So some tutoring for the kids. I mean, I love like, helping them. But at this point, honestly, they don't even want me to tutor them. So.
I remember being adult now.
Yeah. French is my first language, and my daughter doesn't think I can have her French. So I was like, seriously? But that's that age. So you'll get there one day. So whatever you can do to just create more personal time and help you keep sane, I try to do it.
How gratifying it is to go back a week and learn it off for everyone as well.
I did one somewhere you get paid, they'll go get it free for free. So if you want to have a meeting and you need
Anybody have, what are the things that make this the role model ones? Like, how would you use a cat I do really well. I feel like there's not. I start with it.
Tell me.
Oh my God. On your walking down. I know. I don't know who you're gonna bring in from, but I have enough of this. I work that way. We have all this stuff.
Just start by drinking the coffee with the cat and see where it leads you.
It's gonna be bad. It's like when I show up anywhere else. How I want to just take it home.
I didn't even know they had this in the States. We went to Japan for spring break, and we've done so many of those. I was like, I had enough. I was like, no, no more. I'm not going to anymore. Like hamster, cafe. Oh yeah,
They have they have so many different
cafe. Yeah. It was.
Whatever your guys like, chinchilla. Go yoga's amazing. Sorry, I told this digression. This smell. But then, like, I
That's actually my role model thing, because like I'm like prioritize my wellness more than anything. And he's like, I don't know if it's really like like obviously it is, but like residency, kind of told to take on like that kind of like heaviness of the role. Like wellness is important, but like you're supposed to be kind of like overwhelmed, you're supposed to be stressed. I still am, but I still like prioritize a lot, like personal wellness. I'm like, look, if there's something that's like getting to me too much, I'll do whatever I can to like put it off. This or that.
I'll keep working now, and I'll be home around.
So I try.
I think it's really hard.
And so like down to like where
I know master
yes,
is,
I need to
like asking women when they master is.
yeah. So now I have a travel agent, a doctor, and I told her, I was like, if this is the price range, this is the reason of world damage, but then going in, go.
Yeah.
You know what else really helpful?
I never use it. That's my weakness. I travel a lot, but I see that.
Down that train from the airport to the hotel to the venue, this is what you need in your life. If you're someone who doesn't feel like making wellness, like have some family wellness.
I get excited from planning wellness.
I don't even know trying to figure out how to get some.
There are people that do that. I was like, you could probably actually also.
Wow. That's like when you come travel, especially if you go into ski vacations and you got all the stuff, so we asked me that come and get all the coat and stuff like that to bring for lunch. We still unpack stuff. Oh, I didn't know that. I unpack my stuff.
Sometimes you can just like
especially being in Florida, they can just like sit them until the next season.
There you go. Bring like
Yes. So it's great. It's a little bit frustrating because when other people post ES meetings, I don't keep track of my calendar from the hospital. It then won't show them my availability for that time because it's decided I should go to the Q1 meeting that I don't want to attend. So I have to find that, go in and delete that content from my calendar that other people that I see. And then my availability comes right back. But I've had to like, there has been learning difficulties with it, like that I said I was available at this time. But I think part of it comes with, like, I have that experience on there and Outlook. My husband can't say Outlook, he doesn't know when I have meetings and stuff. So I have like a calendar for him.
That's what I have. That's what I have.
So it doesn't get that board. So it's actually like kind of smart from that standpoint, is you can tell which calendars you're busy from and which calendars. Like I don't know how I should that in there because
monitoring myself.
You do that manually on a.
It's just on my phone.
Is it absolute time track?
Yeah. Oh, no, I just don't like it. I just have a Google sheet.
Sending it to people above you that don't use the technology. Again, should I be scheduling people's meetings at least for me that have nothing to do with it? Like when you have,
So it gives you that realistic.
But I also think the new generation coming in, they're in a different mindset. They're not the way we were, like fathers and wellness and so forth. So those friends were taking back in medical school and we were like, oh my God, I wish we had that. They have a whole floor for like wellness, where they have a massage chair, they have piano, they have like, oh yeah, all types of like snack and stuff. I'm like, what? And then we didn't have any of that. I mean, of course, we were happy for them for the business, but but I think the new generation is different. They really prioritize, you know, their wellness, their time, and they really know how to use that to their advantage, which is, you know, good. We don't want them to go to the extreme, but I think it's also very good. Yeah, they have a total massage chair. I'm still busy. I ride my bike to work. I go to the gym. That's enough. I don't need to run into another problem.
it's like, is it taking my career on the trajectory that I'm trying to go take?
Well, like my colleagues wonder that like
is it gonna like promote my career in
like
some way?
I said like one morning, like you know, or you can do every month.
Stuff that doesn't actually all my shifts get included. And I
putting your shifts into your outlook. Yeah, so
all
that they know when I'm working.
And then very common theme was like, for those that are very junior at the level, mentally fit and resident level, you should say yes to a lot of things right now because you have no idea what direction your career will take necessarily. And then
Well, I mean, like,
then you kind of whittle away and say no more and more and more.
I mean, like, people,
Yeah, they get
like,
sensitive.
add meeting with my counselor.
Like really,
Oh, no. I've been the first ones out. They're like, oh, we're in the meeting,
and then sometimes
and they'll write me emails, because I do not believe in 8 a.m. meetings.
now I'm just, at least I
Time is not getting started, and I'm thinking, like, your stage here, and you're like, yeah, no, we were required to have a meeting. I was like, yeah, that's previously stated. I'm just gonna try.
I like to use this sometimes when people keep asking me the same thing over and over again. I was like, you know, it's kind of like the other Cassandra said, as mentioned in a previous email, these are the things we talk about. Because I hate when people do that. You keep asking the same thing over and over again.
Don't even write it. There's a lot of those email. Don't even respond to what they say. Just
What is-
forward the original.
I've done that.
No other words.
I've done that. I've done that.
The ultimate.
Yeah, I've done that.
I do use calendars that you could just say.
That's it.
Yeah. It's like different people, like randos, like trying to access the account, especially being a rando, then I would be feel bad saying, you're my chair.
it's easier, it's better when someone says, no, you know,
No,
she
I
can't
just
do
want
it
to
right now, she
whatever
has
it is,
too much
can't
going on, and then you say no, I don't like that, obviously, we're not
So, like,
interested. One of my favorites is like this assumption.
I know.
that we are going to say no until we have kids or because we're pregnant.
But I think that it's super whatever, we were getting a baby order, like an actual thing, is I actually sit down and like back down. The first thing I do is write all the things I did well as a pictures. So like, what are my wins from the previous quarter, and y'all, sometimes I do like, I will literally write, got car inspected.
Yeah. Smile today.
I'm taking out instead of writing emails with my share. But like, no, but that was a big thing. I used to take out doctors. I did that first. So then you already feel like it's done, and then you sit down and figure in the next 3 months, what things do I have to get done? So now you're gonna write a bunch of stuff down. Then you go through and you circle 2 of those that actually really have to get done. And then break those things down. So if it's like schedule,
Yeah, because we get those sorts
I
of
will
things.
literally write out, this is the
stuff
date
that
in which I'm
actually
gonna try and like figure out what can I double check the schedule until this date, I'm gonna do such and such, I'm gonna send it to the admin on this date, for sign up, I'm gonna do whatever, and lay it out over the 3 months. And it has dates on it of what day you're gonna have that thing done after 2 of these. Then I go back to the original list and cross out 2 things that I'm just like, originally I was like, it's adding, nothing has to be done, okay, you just want to know, like, these 2 that was off, and then anything I get done other than the 2 circle things counts as a win. So how does that? Yep.
It's like a positive reinforcement. Like a sneaky positive underneath. That's not a thing.
Every quarter, I sit down and make the list. Sometimes I'm really good at it, sometimes not so much. But I will say that the 2 things that I circle always get done, maybe not in that quarter, because they're in the like the first quarter.
Column that you want to share, she's going to start source.
I really like the to-do list, less than 2 minutes, over 2 minutes, and then like, so that's why I'm like, like notes, and I'm gonna like start doing that, because right now we have like 40, they're just like random, you know, they're not organized at all, I'm just like, I don't know, I know it's all in my head, and it literally reflects of how it is in my head, it's just like chaos and scattered. It takes some time. Organize it.
It's more so like checks and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll give you this list if I get this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but like the message is there.
The message is there, the take home is there, and everything.
I'm not thinking about it.
I think the first thing that he said.
And like how many hours is normal for that place and how that really would be able to understand what it is you're asking for.
I highly suggest a coach. Someone who thinks like things you don't know are really helpful. All my parents will. Parents don't understand what I'm more of a though that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
there's
there's
definitely
definitely
not like you get the title like this weird.
but like she calls it senior time. You're supposed to sit down and do the practice your time. So like now that could be writing a grant, that could be writing a paper. That could also be like planning your next 3 months. That could be sitting down and reflecting on whatever it is you've already accomplished and like setting some goals, some smart goals, whatever it is. But she's very strict that you have to have 2 hours to see the time every week. And then block on your calendar for 16. But like, yeah, I do find it helpful to have a time so that nobody else can touch, shut the door, do it wherever you want. I usually do it in my office because like after hours when nobody else is in the office, because that allows somebody into it. And then I had a time when I was like, whereas just here, I'm just like, hey, so
if you don't like, you're just so bored.
We called it,
People who are English professors have the same thoughts as we're talking about.
Maybe you have currently thoughts on efficiency, strict struggles.
I feel like there's one struggle that I usually have, is that saying no as a business. So, being a junior, at a very junior level at the moment and start writing on my chair secretary as a reception. So I feel like there's a lot of work that, your seniors do.
Well, I schedule my
and you cannot say
for my chair to try to come up with a time.
what I do is my public finance that I just
But,
keep that, I commit to it. I
so
can't
we write
but I
our
say
own,
that I'll do it maybe
annual
next week.
John doesn't know
So I
this,
just
but
give
she's
them a
expensive.
later time.
And so you basically get a form given to you that says that's the
But I feel like I cannot say no.
So every year I write all the things that I've done for the last year.
Yeah.
Which ones have been yes, yes, yes.
But you need to prioritize,
I just go
that's
all
what
the
it
same
is.
time and I say, here's all the things that I've done.
We talk a lot about saying no,
But
there's a period where you don't say no. Like, when it's just part of it, and you learn, like, how do you do like things, so much about your time, and then you're smarter about identifying the things, and then you don't know what to do. That was it. You better identifying.
Hey, just to let you know, I just got this published.
Yeah, I'm all for saying no, it's like,
We're starting with your.
So I will say I just did that recently because what I published, I also went to.
Yeah, exactly. To our RC and you have to, like, you think that like your RC meeting, I don't know what it said yes to, but then it was good. So I feel like there's a meeting, like, something you just want to do.
And it's big discussing the RC meeting.
Or it could be a time fire vote. But I think you're right, though. It was good, it was fine, but
There are those things where you're like, hey, I want to be on your radar. But it is, I think it can be challenging at times because I don't think it is as comfortable as and when we do it, it is not necessarily as well. One of the other things is each other, sponsors of.
yeah, networking, building connections for people.
And this is why I have to debate among our faculty about the reply all button. And so I almost hit reply all in an email to say thank you so much to like promote one of my colleagues, but I think that some of your colleagues in our time that I was trying to do it. Thank you for all the work you've done on this. You know, you can reply on or I can filter up for that. My own management thing, like sending out stuff to be like, you know, you just publish these things. Like I want to get this person out so about this and trying to read it into the that we can sell it. The art of reading. Like,
I'm gonna give you like a super.
I was like, the title needs work. The title needs work. We can't repurpose that intro. Yeah.
All right, you guys, let's start to wrap up. Thank you guys. Oh, sorry. I did not mean, I did notice, okay.
I'm just having so much fun back here.
No, I know, and this is great. I also want to respect, like, the free drink tickets, like, they start in like half an hour or something. I don't want to be in the way between you and free drink tickets. So just, this is the QR code. I'll just say a couple closing words and then I'll leave you with this and you can take off once you're done. But thank you guys so much for being here today, for spending your afternoon with us. I learned a lot from hearing from all of you and talking to you, and hopefully you guys also were able to leave with some of the things that may be beneficial to you. And I think, all of us in this room are people that you can reach out to for anything. Now you know a little bit about what everyone's doing. And I think everybody here, by simply showing up today, you're interested, you're, willing to sort of be a mentor, participate in those mentorship relationships. And we're always happy to answer any questions. But thank you guys very much. I hope to see many of you. I know many of you will be at the Education Committee tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. And then the other plug we're going to make is AWIM, if you're ready to take the next step in networking, AWIM is doing a social tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. in the hotel lobby bar. So 4 to 6, great opportunity to show up, meet some other women in emergency medicine. You don't have to be an official AWIM member. I'm assuming, right, you can just tell them I sent, well, don't tell them I sent you, I don't. Tell them Ynhi. Yeah, they'll be like, who's our most delinquent member? Yeah, don't use my name, use Ynhi's name. But anyway, yeah, that's a great opportunity also. If you're looking to meet other people and make some connections, a great place to do it.
The AWIM business meeting is tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. And that's a great avenue to meet other women that's facing the same struggles as you and gain some collaboration.
Yeah, papers being written. The paper that Melissa referenced came out of AWIM. So if you're looking for opportunities to engage in scholarship, lots of opportunities to do that. So thank you all. Thank you for filling out the workshop QR code. This really helps us, again, gauge whether we were meeting the objectives of it, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you, guys.